What's the best way to avoid paying taxes while milking the government for everything it's got? NFTs.
NFTs.
Are they dope or are they whack?
Hello, Stardust.
Hello, how's it going?
I am doing all right. Can you turn your camera on for my
Yes.
stream?
Give me a
Sweet.
second. Am I on?
And let me pop. It didn't work this time. It always works. That's unfortunate.
How dare they?
Well, goodness. Yeah, no, it always. This always normally works. How's your stream been going, Stardust?
It's been going good. I watched a little bit of your talk with Mr. Girl.
Oh, he was a very hard student.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
He's I'm sure he tried his best. So
I hope he did, because I don't know what to say about him. I think
wow, speechless.
I am speechless, honestly. Well, anyways,
That's fair.
I had a series of questions for you, Econoboi. Why are you Econoboi and not Economan?
It's because I didn't think Economan really, flew. What do you call it? I didn't think it slid off the tongue quite as easily as Econoboi. So that's just what I had in my head, Econoboi. That's it. It's not a complicated origin story, if I'm honest.
Do you have any questions for me, Econoboi? Otherwise, I'm going to start rattling off questions to you.
Well, I'm barred from asking any topics related to Daisy people.
I'm
on your
just
stream.
joking. I was just joking about that. I was just joking. I wasn't serious. I whenever I make that joke, I actually don't mind it. Chat knows I'm joking.
I'm
too.
just kidding.
So, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But no, I don't know if I have any questions. What would you say, like, if you were to call yourself an expert on something, what would it be?
An expert at talking to people who are not supposed to like. So I think I'm an expert at maybe not even conflict. I'm just really good in uncomfortable situations. If there's somebody that everybody hates, it's a guarantee that I'll get along with them. I don't know what it is. There's something wrong with chat.
Yeah?
What would you say I'm an expert at?
What are they saying?
Well, somebody said mashing expert. I'm not very good at talking nicely about myself. So yeah.
You're not you don't accept awards very well.
I don't really think of compliments for myself. I don't think about things that I'm good at. I usually am focusing on things that I'm bad at.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. I mean, that sounds like the type of mindset that you would have to always improve.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm just bad at these things. I just want to focus on these things, and then you get good at it, and then you just go to the next thing.
Or, but if you get good at it, you still are never good enough. You're like mediocre at all times. You never get past mediocre. That's how my life is. Everything is just mediocre. I'm mediocre at everything, and I'm just constantly trying to get better at the things that I'm mediocre at, and then try not to hate myself for the things that I'm bad at.
Are you a mediocre daughter? Are you a good daughter?
I think I'm an okay daughter.
Well, there you go.
I don't know.
Better than mediocre.
And, wait a second. Somebody said I'm really good at inventing memes that turn out later to be similar to things that the alt-right did.
Okay.
Yeah. But like the honking. I didn't know that was an alt-right.
Honking is an alt-right thing?
Yeah, I didn't know. Apparently it is.
What about mashing?
Mashing is not an alt-right.
That you know of.
That I know.
I'm just now noticing I'm not a VIP in your Discord, Stardust.
Oh, sorry. Let me give you VIP.
I feel disrespected.
I don't even pay attention to who has a VIP in the Discord anymore. I put those on like ages ago. Here, I'll add it to you.
How many members do you have in your Discord?
Like 1,000, I think. No.
Okay, we're coming for you. We got 875 in my Discord. I want to get 1,000 one day. But all right, Stardust. You said you saw my conversation. I think it was with Not So Erudite, the one that you saw. And
no, Mr. Girl.
Oh, it was Mr. Girl. Okay. And you wanted to talk economics, and I think you added in socialism.
I don't think I added that in, but I'm totally fine talking about it.
I could have sworn, though. I thought you tweeted it out.
And maybe I who knows? Maybe are you mixing me up with Cherry?
Let's see. Oh, no. I for some reason, someone liked, I know why I thought this. It's because someone liked a post where they mentioned they would be talking to me about economic theory and socialism, but it was from weeks ago. They liked like a week's old post. I must have assumed it was for this conversation, but no, it's not. Okay, we're just talking economic theory then, just some economic stuff. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm tagging you in a post on Twitter because you reminded me that I did.
No problem. All right, chat. Sorry to disappoint, I
No,
guess. Stardust
wait.
doesn't want to talk
Your chat is
socialism.
disappointed. I don't want them to be disappointed. We can talk about socialism if you want. I don't really get it. I don't really understand. Well, no, I kind of get it, but it doesn't seem. I like food too much.
And socialism is when you don't have food.
Yes. So,
That's a fair definition.
yeah, I'm sorry, but I like food. Yeah, but food is the most important thing. Social is when socialism, yeah, when they did it that one time, or they did it those 3 times.
The one time.
They did it, and people were hungry and stuff. I don't like being hungry. You like being hungry, Econoboi? Are you a socialist? Do you like being hungry?
Sometimes hunger can mean you've done a good thing, right? It's like, oh, I'm good on my diet, which means I'm a little hungry right now. But most of the time, hunger isn't fun.
I'm glad we're speaking the same
Yeah.
language.
Why do you want to talk, economics in general? What's the purpose?
Because I feel like I also barely understand it. I remember hearing Mr. Girl saying, I don't know anything about econ. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about econ either. Don't worry, this conversation will not turn out to be like a Mr. Girl conversation, okay? Anyways,
Okay.
I just want you to know that, okay? Dadey super chatted for 20 and said, I hate being hungry, also mediocre. I'm just plain bad at everything. Totally relate, Dadey. Anyways, right. So Mr. Girl was talking about how he doesn't know anything about econ. I took econ in college. I took macro econ and micro econ.
Yes.
But everything I flew out of my head. I don't remember a single thing from it. I know that there's like GDP and stuff, and there's employment and interest rates and inflation. Maybe you can start off by telling me what is the relationship between employment, interest rates, and inflation.
Sure, yeah. Sorry.
I have another super chat I have to read. I'm sorry, I missed it. Well, first, actually, let's answer the super chat first, and then you can answer the employment, interest rate, inflation thing.
Okay.
Ties and Wine asks, Econo, how do I make $10,000 in passive income in as short a time as 2 weeks? Also, what secret does the doctors want us to not know?
I would say just give all your money to Stardust and she will turn it into $10,000 in 2 weeks. And then, well, she won't give it back to you, I assume. But it'll be made into $10,000 though. So that's how you could do it. What secrets the doctors don't want you to know? Probably that they're all fake and not real, and it's all about Eastern medicine. So you have to keep that in mind.
Anyways, I'm gonna just ignore that. All right. What is the relationship between employment, interest rates, and inflation?
All right. So a caveat that I have to give you is that there's many economist Twitter people that are going to have annoying disagreements with everything that I say, but just ignore them. They're wrong and dumb and white. And so their opinions aren't valid. Why? Why
it's
not?
It's racist.
I'm white.
All right, go ahead.
There we go. Come on, Stardust. Jeez. But the point is, though, just ignore them. Now, employment. So, employment, obviously, how many people have a job in your population? There's different metrics to measure it, but that's the basic. Imagine people having jobs, I guess. And when it comes to the relationship between employment and inflation, this is called the Phillips curve. It's a somewhat controversial curve. It's the idea that the higher the inflation, the more employment that we should have. And the idea comes from, fundamentally, it comes from the idea that if you've got a bunch of corporations, a bunch of businesses that are really struggling to find workers, if everyone has a job and they're happy with their job, corporations that are hiring are going to have a hard time finding employees, I should say. And so they have to raise wages up and up and up and up until eventually workers are going to switch and, get that job. But if you raise wages, that's going to raise prices on their products, right? And so that's part of the justification for that idea that, if you have lower unemployment, there's going to be higher inflation. It's not really true. The relationship isn't as straightforward as we might imagine in that example. So the truth is there's a pretty loose correlation between employment and inflation. I think that the exception to this is that when there's a recession, right? So when the economy goes to shit, unemployment tends to be high, and therefore inflation tends to be lower because basically when a bunch of people aren't spending a ton of money, businesses have to lower their prices in order to keep people in the stores. and kind of causes a broad-based deflation or like disinflation, where inflation just goes down. Now, interest rates are a little bit more straightforward. Bless all the MMT people out there, but I'll be saying a lot of things that will trigger you about interest rates. Interest rates, it tends to be the case that when interest rates go up, inflation will go down. There might be some exceptions to this rule, but it historically seems to be that is the case. When interest rates get set higher and higher, inflation will eventually go down and down and down. Now, the trade off to this is that oftentimes unemployment goes up, right? So when interest rates get higher and higher and higher, it gets harder to invest because people don't want to take out a loan at 10% when, 2 years ago they could take it out at 3.5%. And so, the appetite for investment goes down. And so businesses aren't taking out as many loans. They're not as expanding as aggressively as they were. They're not hiring as much as they were. And depending on different sort of aspects of their business, they have to refinance debt, and now they have to take out a much higher interest rate than they used to. They might have to lay off workers, right? So there's a lot of reasons why increasing interest rates would cause unemployment rates to go higher than they otherwise were.
What is modern monetary theory, or MMT?
Good question. MMT people will always lie to your face and say that you have described MMT incorrectly, but of course you ended up having not described it incorrectly at all. At least that's been my experience with a lot of MMTers. I'll get very frustrated, but MMT is essentially a descriptive and oftentimes a prescriptive framework. And some foundational ideas of MMT is the idea that governments, the value of the currency is fundamentally based on the government's ability to tax you. So what gives a dollar its value? Well, it's because you have to pay your taxes in it, and that's what gives the currency value.
I'm sorry, can you rewind a bit? Can you repeat that first part again?
Yeah, so one of the foundational ideas of MMT is that the thing that makes currencies valuable is the government compelling you to pay your taxes in that currency, right?
It's about
So if
taxes.
the government,
Taxes
yeah,
is what gives your gives your money value.
that's one of the ideas of MMT. Yes.
Okay, I'm writing this down.
Yeah, and that idea isn't the most incorrect thing, right? I mean, if U.S. taxpayers could pay their taxes in something other than U.S. dollars, then you might imagine that would change the value of the currency, because people need dollars to pay their taxes. So sure, that's part of the value of the currency. Now, the more sort of exotic extrapolations of MMT tend to be in the form of how they would deal with monetary policy, right? So a lot of MMTers will say that interest rates are a very poorly fitted tool to tackle inflation. And in fact, the best way to tackle inflation is with taxing and spending. So if you have high inflation, you should tax more, or you should spend less in certain areas of the economy. If you have low inflation, well, you can do the opposite, right? And the amount of money that you can spend into the economy, or the amount of money you can cut in taxes, is basically determined by how much inflation there is. And that's more or less where MMT currently stands in modern discourse. Now, where I would disagree with that is just that I don't think the only thing making the USD valuable is the fact that you tax money, and that's what makes it valuable. And the other thing is that, well, frankly, I just think it would be a really bad idea to give Congress the ability to control inflation with taxes and spending, because the penchant for politicians to undertax and overspend is pretty high, right? So I don't know if I would trust politicians to control inflation responsibly.
Undertax and overspend. They tend to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you think about it, right? I mean, they're politicians. It's pretty hard to sell broad-based tax increases or broad-based spending cuts. I mean, even the conservatives don't typically cut spending, right? They might just cut a bunch of taxes, right? And the Democrats, they don't typically raise taxes in a broad-based way to fund huge programs. They tend to, raise taxes maybe just on the top 1% by 1% or 2%. So
undertax, overspend. I'm getting so black-pilled on my financial future right now. It all sounds horrible. From Jessica Pizzle. Do you have any words of wisdom for Jessica?
I don't know what I said that would lead you to be negative about your financial future. I mean, if it was the interest rates thing, you got to realize that interest rates are, they're a moving target, right? So they're going to come down eventually. I mean, if you're worried about the ability to buy a home or something like that, maybe that's a little bit different. But you got to keep in mind that not everyone has to buy a home. So. But housing is becoming less affordable. That's true. Other than that, though, I don't know what I said that would make you super black-pilled on your personal financial future.
Okay, can you explain? I'm so sorry, you're gonna hate me for this, but I may ask you to explain
There you
things a
go.
couple of times, okay?
No worries.
So I promise this is not a Mr. Girl conversation. I just need things explained a couple of times.
No worries.
Okay. So can you explain now the relationship between employment, interest rate, and inflation?
Yeah, sure. So employment, interest rates, and inflation. So there's not really a hugely empirical relationship between employment and inflation. Not in my view, at least. If you look at the data of like the historical unemployment rate and inflation,
There's not
there's
a
not
huge
like
relationship between them.
well, in theory, that's what I was describing. Like in some economic theory, there would be, right? But the problem is that if you look at the actual data of the relationship between unemployment or employment and inflation, there's not an incredibly clear relationship. It's a pretty weak correlation. And with interest rates,
Okay,
yeah, go on.
pretty. Sorry, I'm just writing this down. Weak correlation between interest rate and employment.
Yeah, no, employment and inflation.
Oh, employment and inflation. Sorry.
And when it comes to interest rates, it's kind of the opposite, right? Where I think there's actually a pretty strong historical correlation between interest rates and inflation. The higher the interest rate, inflation will tend to come down, and the higher the interest rate, you're probably going to have more unemployment as a result.
You're gonna have more unemployment as a result of what? Of interest rates being higher?
Higher interest rates, yeah.
Okay. For $5, Ties and Wine asks, when is the best time to buy a house? Should I keep holding out hope for a dip?
I'm not sure about the best time to buy a house. I know that the best time of each year, typically to get a mortgage, is in January. Yeah.
January is the time to get a mortgage.
Typically, it is because a lot of the demand for mortgages is based on the school schedules, and the reason that is because typically parents are pretty reticent to move in the middle of the school year for their kids. And so if you're a person who doesn't give a shit about that, then you can get oftentimes relatively good deals in January.
Okay, Jessica says mainstream media and social media would tell us that interest rates are going to stay high for a while, and I work for a small company. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, they're probably going to stay high for a while. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but in terms of your future, right? I mean, your long-term thinking, right? I mean, that's interest rate policy today shouldn't affect what you imagine your retirement's going to be like. At least not in my opinion.
Okay. Historian asks, with the dramatic shift to a service-based economy and the development of digital products, how does this impact economic volatility and projection?
With the dramatic shift to a service-based economy and the development of digital products, how does this impact economic volatility and projections? That's a good question. I don't know if I'm not really sure. I don't know the answer to the question in terms of how it would impact it. It's also hard to think through because I guess intuitively you might imagine that services would be a little bit more stable, but then again, maybe not because they might be more based on like discretionary income. And discretionary income is just the money you have left over after all the bills are paid. And if you have a lot lower discretionary income because of a recession, you might think that, services are going to be the first to be hit, right? You might not be going out to the movies or restaurants and stuff like that. So that's hard to say.
Okay. And then Ties and Wine wants to know, do you have any thoughts on a workers' union?
Unions are great. 10 out of 10 would do them again.
What is a short-term capital gain?
So in the United States and in most countries, the capital gains tax, which is, the tax on capital gains, is oftentimes divided into two buckets: long-term capital gains and short-term capital gains. Now, what a capital gain is in the first place is when you buy an asset and you sell that asset for more than you bought it for, that's a capital gain. So if you buy a stock for $10 and you sell it for $15, your capital gain is $5, and the capital gains tax is assessed on that $5 and only that $5.
So when you buy an asset and sell it for more than what you bought it for, basically.
That's capital gains. Yeah.
Okay.
And short-term capital gains is defined by regulators, right? So in the US, I want to say it's for shorter than a year. So if you buy an asset on January 1st for $10 and you sell it on, June 22nd for 15, then that would be assessed the short-term capital gains tax rate. But if you were to hold that until the subsequent January 1st, your taxes are lower. So you end up paying the long-term capital gains tax rate.
Should short-term capital gains be taxed as ordinary income?
Personally, I think short and long-term capital gains taxes should both be taxed as ordinary income. I think that, for me at least, the function of taxes mostly has to do with income inequality, and you also have to consider like political realities of taxation as well. I would just say that with regards to that issue, most of the top end capital gains, like the people making the most capital income, are wealthy people, right? And the fact that we tax capital gains lower than regular income, to me, serves as kind of a structural inequality in the system. And if we, remedied that by just taxing them the same, we could bring down income inequality.
Okay. Jessica in the chat says, who even thinks about retirement nowadays? Most 401ks are stock market based, and companies don't offer pensions like they used to.
Damn, Jessica. I mean, with how much you're donating to Stardust, I mean, it sounds like you're not thinking very much about retirement. Okay. No, but no, I get what you're saying. I mean, the reality is money that you put into a 401k is probably going to return more than money you're paying into Social Security anyway. Point on, did she, maybe I missed the point. Well, yeah, I mean, you get offered Social Security too. I don't know what country you're from, to be fair, but you get Social Security as well. And so, I get the point, but in theory, if you're investing a decent amount in a 401k, that should be roughly equivalent, or maybe even more than a pension anyway. I mean, because you got to think, right? Money that's paid into a pension is just invested into the stock market anyway. And so, a 401k is kind of your own form of a private pension. Although I do agree that like your base of money might be a bit less stable because it's all from you instead of a broad base of workers. But companies stopped paying for pensions because they were super duper expensive. And so that's why they stopped paying for them. And they offer the 401k instead. So you gotta work. You gotta work with what you're given. So the best thing that you can do is not necessarily be worried or like complain about the fact that your company might not offer a pension. Rather, it's just to invest in your 401k as best you can. Or if that's a big concern for you, I mean, there's many government jobs that still offer pensions. You can become a postal driver, work for the federal government doing anything other than that. Most state governments, most teaching positions, there's quite a lot of public service jobs that still offer pensions. And then most union jobs offer pensions as well.
Jin Chan says, do you think the Phillips curve is outdated due to the Federal Reserve's ability to manipulate the interest rate through the buying and selling of bonds?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know what the correlation looks like over time. Obviously, the Phillips curve originated from somewhere. I don't recall historically how that theory was developed. I just learned about the theory, and the perhaps the lackluster or more substantive justifications thereof. But in general, though, I'm not really sure. It could be the case that like pre 1974, whenever the gold standard got done away with. It could be the case that like pre 1974. There was a massive correlation between the two, and then afterwards it completely broke apart, but I'm not really sure.
And then there's another one here from Ties and Wine saying, I was told in high school not to assume Social Security will be around when I go to retire, that I need to find a way to pay for my golden years or work till I drop. Do you agree this might happen?
I don't agree. So Social Security as we know it today could be significantly altered by the time that you retire. But I think barring like a societal level collapse, the idea of a mandatory, like basically a government regulated compulsory retirement savings is not going to go away, right? So whether that's like, a kind of like 401k required plan, whether that's like a traditional Social Security system, whether that's like a sovereign wealth fund style system, I don't really think that I don't think that there'll be most any time when people aren't required to put money away for retirement legally, and then take out of it when they're retired.
Festival Johnson says, many people are concerned with the gutting of the middle class. Do you think an effective strategy to bolster the middle class would be to tax the poor and kill the rich? What a question.
I don't think that would be an effective way to bolster the middle class. No. Taxing the poor and killing the rich. That seems, I wouldn't say that would be an effective strategy.
Okay. Okay. Why is the high price of Russian gas a good thing for America?
Why is it a good thing for America?
Yeah,
I'm
why
not
is it a
sure how
good
it
thing?
is.
Well, then why do you not support Ukraine?
I don't understand. How are the two related?
I don't know. Somebody told me to ask you that.
Never ask audience questions.
Wait, what is your opinion on Ukraine?
Well, the Marxist socialist state of Russia is simply trying to denazify and de-radicalize
Jesus
the
Christ.
Ukrainian government. No, of course not. I mean, I have a pretty standard view on the war in Ukraine. I mean, I think that certainly Ukraine has a lot of structural problems with regards to like corruption in government and things
Mhm,
like that.
mhm,
The degree to which Zelensky himself is a problem in that regard or a
yeah,
solution is something that can only be really something that can only be determined by historians in the future. I think that right now Zelensky is a positive force for the Ukrainian people, and especially in terms of dealing with this war effort. I think I'm not sure most people were expecting like a former comedian actor to be such a relatively inspirational wartime president as he's been thus far. And then with regards to the Russian actions, I mean, it seems like a classic case of sort of neo-imperialism, neo-colonial. Well, it's not neo-colonialism, but sort of a modern example of imperialism. Most certainly, I mean, the justifications from Russia seems to literally be going back and forth between we need to denazify Ukraine at the same time talking about how the foreign minister of Ukraine had Jewish blood, but it's those Nazis that are the problem. But
yeah,
then also just having literal blood and soil justifications of like, oh yes, well these regions are mostly Russian speaking and they want to be part of Russia because why wouldn't they want to be part of Russia? Um, and then some justifications of like, yes, NATO expansionism, and it reminds me of that meme of um, it reminds me of that meme of Russia. They're knocking on the door and they're like, "Open the door, Ukraine. We're just trying to protect you." And Ukraine says, "Protect me from what?" And Russia says, "From what we're gonna do to you if you join NATO." Like, what the fuck, dude? I mean, what a horrible fucking country.
yeah.
What a horrible fucking government the country of Russia has right
Yeah.
now.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Wow, chat really has more. Majority of the questions tonight seem to be coming from chat. So, Econoboi is like a
Damn,
celebrity
chat.
in the Stardust community.
Making
Um,
Stardust money today. Let's do it.
you should ask him if China will buy off Sri Lanka now that it's literally bankrupt to hell. What do you think?
I don't think China has any interest in buying a whole entire fucking country. Definitely not Sri Lanka because the Chinese government's like really, really racist, and I don't think they'd want to be like responsible for an island of brown people. If I'm honest,
Mm.
I think that the only country they'd be interested in taking over currently is probably Taiwan, but that's probably not even going to happen anytime soon.
Testicle Johnson says, thoughts on the digital yuan? Do you think other countries will follow suit? And do you think that digital currency is a good idea? Pros/cons.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some advantages of digital currencies is that it would be easier to transact. Like you might be able to get around different like international banking fees and stuff like that. I'm not really sure though. I haven't looked into it a ton. But other than that, I mean, I don't see the problem with that. I mean, insofar as central banks and governments feel like one thing they need to do to modernize is to provide digital alternatives to their currencies, then I mean, what's wrong with that, right?
This person who asked you earlier about the Sri Lanka and China question, they are asking about China and Africa expansion. Do you know anything about that?
A pretty good amount, yeah. I mean, the Belt and Road Initiative has been a really interesting play from China. It's really gone a long way in terms of establishing China's brand equity in Africa, especially if you look at voting, but basically like UN voting position. Whenever there's like a China versus US issue voted in the UN, it seems like more and more African countries are more and more often taking China's side over the US. Now, most African countries are still pretty squarely in the American camp because America does actually still provide more aid to Africa than China does. But at the same time, though, I think China has done a really, really good job branding its issue. Like this has been a campaign, an international campaign. Xi Jinping has even said that this is like one of his crowning achievements, and he wants to advertise the absolute shit out of it. And the types of things that they're investing in are also it's like physical infrastructure for the most part, which also is their interest, not only for brand equity purposes and diplomatic purposes, but also because China wants to diversify away from Western businesses as much as Western businesses want to diversify away from China. So China, by investing in physical infrastructure in these African countries, hopefully are building out better export partners, right? The reason that a lot of African countries don't buy as much like Chinese manufactured shit as Western countries do is because they're too poor to buy the stuff, right? And so if you invest in that infrastructure and make them a little bit wealthier, they might have a little bit better time buying the exports that you want to make from a Chinese government perspective. So it's definitely it's a really long term and strategic play from China. But I think that Western allies are doing a little bit more to counter that kind of thing and to try and offer their own alternatives. I think that one of the last things that the Trump administration did actually was establish like a specific infrastructure investment bank through the USAID, I want to say. But that's one small piece of the puzzle. But it's a very interesting issue right now.
Cool. Okay. A few more chats in here. Between higher and more aggressive regulation of megacorps or intense restructuring and development of education, which would have a larger positive impact on the middle class?
I mean, it depends on the country, I would say. Because I would say that if you're a really, really poor and developing country, you really, really, really need to get your institutions in line, structure your government in such a way that's fairly insulated from corruption, or at the very least has good systems in place to address it when it happens. And then also to educate your population so that they can become productive members of society, entrepreneurs, workers, things like that, right? And so education's really important for developing countries to get good at, I guess, I suppose, to offer their students and their people. And so that's pretty important, right? But when it comes to I would say more say either larger or developed countries. I would say at that point you kind of have more second order priorities, right? And so to the extent that corporations are getting out of hand, polluting things, taking advantage of their size and stuff like that, contributing to income inequality. I mean, this is where your government can play a major role in that as well. Both of these questions are important for both types of countries. It's just that if I had to say like a first order priority for a developing like poor country, it's going to be developing institutions and making sure that you're investing in physical infrastructure, attracting foreign investment, private capital investment, and definitely getting your population quality education.
Eli Goose asks, who would win in a fist fight in 1793, James Mill or David Ricardo?
That's a good question. I'm not very familiar with the body composition or fighting prowess of either of those people.
And then Tyson Wine asks, do you think a Mars colony could ever make money?
I mean, I guess so, right? It depends on
What
how
are they
cheap the
gonna
technology
do?
is to.
Send rocks back to Earth?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's probably a shitload of like natural resources in Mars, right?
Like what?
Like, I don't know, any big ass rock in the middle of space is gonna have like usable resources, iron, fucking, silicon, steel. Well, obviously not steel, but stuff like that, right? So,
They have ice, I
presumably, yeah, they get some
Yeah.
back water.
Yeah.
All those basic elements, right? There's probably a shitload of it in Mars.
Oh,
Goodness,
gold?
insulting the Martian people's economy.
Look, I don't
Jesus,
know.
Stardust.
Mars has helium. Oh, that's true. We do have a shortage of helium, right? Asteroid mining, yes. Tiberius says Mars colony, no. Asteroid mining, yes. Okay.
Wow, Tiberius, you bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Next thing on the list that I have is, what's the best way to avoid paying taxes while milking the government for everything it's got?
Get married to a friend that you trust, and you can claim a bunch of deductions because you're married and filing jointly. So that would maybe be one thing. And have a kid, but abandon it and just capture all of those those tax credits and sort of
Can you do that?
advantages
Can
and
you
whatnot.
actually have a kid and abandon it and then get tax credit for it?
Just like make your parents take care of it or something,
Well, you can just put it up for
easy
adoption,
enough.
right?
Well, if you put it up for adoption, I think you're illegally foregoing all of your tax advantages,
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Let's see.
Donations.
Yeah,
as
those are the
well.
two big
Somebody
ones.
says donation.
Well, you've got to pay taxes on your, like, people donating money to you, you mean?
if you give donation. Gift and donations
Oh,
aren't
well,
taxable either. Oh, okay.
there's ways you can get around that. That's true, but I mean, at the end of the day, like your donations are only a deduction, right? So you're not gonna make that much money. I mean, even like we were talking about it earlier, contributing to your 401k is pre-tax money. So what that means is that if you make $100,000 and you you put 20 grand in your 401k, the government's going to tax you like you made $80,000. So that 20 grand was tax free on the front end. So that's a way to defer like a ton of tax obligation, and it's a 401k, right? So you get that money back when you retire. So there's all kinds of tax tricks, I guess.
Okay, Testicle Johnson here says urban centers struggle with a lot of unique issues. Do you think that if we feed all the stray animals to the homeless and feed the homeless to livestock, we would have world peace?
World peace, I don't think that would accomplish world peace. Not world peace, I don't think. It could arguably get rid of the homeless, but I think one of the problems is that I think livestock are mostly herbivores. Like, I don't know if a cow would eat a homeless person, right? They just eat
Pig would.
grass. And, oh, yeah, I guess a pig would, but then we would end up getting fucking mad. What's that? You get like brain worms and shit if you
Well,
eat.
you can't eat the brain of a human. That'll give you prions. So
I
if
know, but that's
other
what I'm
parts of the
saying. Like,
human are okay. If they eat every other part of the human, it should be fine.
that's what I'm saying, but I feel like there's gotta be problems, like, if your pig is raised on human meat, the pig I don't know if I'd wanna eat that pig, you know?
Pigs
Like, there's
already taste
something
like human,
fucked up with it.
apparently.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. Do you eat pork, Stardust?
I don't. I've just heard that it apparently tastes a lot like a pig.
Damn, okay, well, I wanna know who's making that comparison with confidence. My
Yeah.
goodness. I don't know. I mean, I don't eat very much pork, but if I knew that this pork was only raised on eating homeless people, I just feel like I would get sick eating it, Like, there's gotta be something wrong with that meat.
I mean, pigs literally eat everything.
I mean, but I would you rather eat a pig that was eating everything or everything minus, humans?
Daniel Burks in the chat says there's a reason human meat is called long pork. I didn't know it was called long pork.
Well, now I do.
Yeah.
There we go. Pork sucks, says Agonize or Aganoise. Pork is okay. There's some good pork out there, like your
I'd eat a
mom.
human if I knew it was ethically sourced. Same, Eli. They were talking about making meat
Ethically sourced.
they're making it by making meat by like in your own like home, and you can just lab grow your own meat based off of your own DNA. And I would do that, but
You would eat yourself.
well, yeah, if you're just growing like a meat patty, basically.
I just feel like I feel like I just wouldn't be able to eat human. Like I'd vomit or something. Like I don't think I don't think I'd be able to like eat a human piece of meat, even if it was lab grown.
Should we bring back the gold standard?
The answer is no. The gold standard is bad for a number of reasons. Mostly it's because, the
Why
gold
is it
standard is
bad?
the idea that, yeah, I was going to say, so the gold standard is bad because, mostly because when you think about the gold standard, right, which is the idea that, the amount of currency that you can create is limited by how much gold you can create or import. On one hand, this could be good, you might say, but I think mostly it's bad because businesses want money, right? The economy should be flexible to its own needs, right? And if businesses want to expand and take out those loans and they want to, be entrepreneurial in that way, some artificial limit of the amount of money in the economy shouldn't be what limits that decision, right? And so if people are clamoring for more dollars and people are cash light, well, I don't think the government should be limited in how much money it can create, or banks the same thing, should they want to, simply because there's not enough gold in the economy. It's a very arbitrary rule. And the idea, basically, the big selling point of a gold standard to some people is, well, if you have a gold standard, you don't have as much inflation. But that's not true, right? You can look at the historical levels of inflation in the economy, and you can see shitloads of inflation in many countries across the world, across history, when they had gold standards. And what you also see is pretty big periods of deflation, where prices decrease, which sounds like a good thing, but the problem is that when prices are decreasing broad-based across the economy, especially for an extended period of time, if it's just because of the gold standard and not some technological advancement or productivity gain, it's going to be a pretty rough business environment, because when prices are decreasing, your money becomes worth more and more. That's not a great thing, because it's incentivizing everyone to keep their money, to save it, not to spend it, right? And so that's why having either zero or some low and stable level of inflation is typically preferable to having these big swings of inflation and deflation, which was pretty much what characterized the gold standard era.
You said it's better to have like a stable inflation rate.
Yeah, like having inflation of 2 or 3% or something. That's better than having these huge swings of inflation and deflation, which is kind of what happened under the gold standard.
Okay. NFTs.
NFTs.
Are they dope or are they whack?
They seem pretty fucking whack to me, if I'm honest.
Why do you
Like
say that?
maybe an NFT person can explain it to me, but the way that I understand, man, NFT is so fucking annoying because it's just like MMT people. Okay, you don't understand what NFTs are. It's like, okay, dude, whatever, fuck. The way that I understand NFTs is that NFT is kind of a proof of work, or no, it's not a proof of work. It's like the opposite. It's is it a what do you call it, a proof of work? When you buy an NFT, you're not buying the underlying asset. You're not buying like a copyright. This is something that people early on got confused with NFTs, where they thought they were buying like a copyright of an image. You buy an NFT of like an image of the Eiffel Tower or something like that, right? And some people were under the assumption that, and I suppose some people probably still are, that when you buy that NFT, nobody else can reuse that image because you own it. But that's not really what you own. What you own is like a unique signature of that image. I call it owning like an official original of a digital copy. It's sort of like if if you had a copy of the Mona Lisa, that's not an NFT. But if you had like the original Mona Lisa, that's the NFT. But it's that, but for digital sort of assets and images and stuff like that. And it's I don't really understand the value of them. It doesn't seem to be anywhere near as innovative as like Bitcoin or anything like that. It seems like it has some utility with regards to like independent artists and stuff, but I don't know. I'm not seeing like the revolutionary technology here. Maybe someone can explain it to me, but I'm not really seeing the value in it.
Okay. Well, I was gonna ask your opinion on some NFTs, but
Give
since you
me
think okay, well, we can still do it, I
Go
guess.
for it.
All right. So there's this one, Obi-Wan, the obese mouse.
I'm looking at it on your stream.
I'm streaming it to
You
you
know,
in the Discord as well.
I would pay maybe a penny or two for that.
Oh, it's for $39,783.
That's a little bit out of my price range, I would say. It's got the Iron Cross in the background. Don't know what that's about.
I think it's a wheel. It's like a hamster wheel.
Nope. It's an Iron Cross, Stardust. This is clearly some sort of Nazi propaganda.
Is it? Oh man,
Probably.
not again. God damn it. Um,
$39,000 though. I mean, this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? Like when people look at this, you have to ask yourself, like, why the fuck would anyone pay $39,000 for this? I mean, maybe I'm just ignorant, but shit, I just don't get it.
okay, well, then there's this one. Don't buy this JPEG. And this one's actually for a good deal. $1,591.32.
It's got the dehydrated SpongeBob on it. That immediately makes its value worth at least 4 figures in my view. Yeah, I would pay $13,000 for this.
Somebody said I can just right click and save it. I feel like that's cheating though.
Hey, don't tell people that you can just fucking snip, Windows snip this image and just save it on your computer, okay? You're supposed to pay $1,000 for it. All right? Jesus.
Oh wait, I didn't even see if chat. Oh yeah, chat can see it. Okay. Okay, the next thing, this one's my favorite, and I think it's the best deal. Crypto Minion.
What would you pay for it?
Well, let me tell you, Econoboi, it's being sold for $31.79.
Buy it right now. Do it.
You think so? It's a good investment?
I mean, if it's your favorite one, like you might as well just buy it on stream. Do it.
I do like minions. I can't buy it on stream because I don't want people to see my card info. But maybe I'll look if they have other minions. Let me see.
That's Stardust. Doesn't stand by her own investment advice.
No, I don't give investment advice. I'm asking you for investment advice. Oh my god, they have more official Minions cult.
Look, for $37, that is a steal, Stardust.
What is this one? This one looks scary. Why is he so big? $17.45.
Did you see the Minions movie?
I saw the first one. I haven't seen the second one yet.
There's 2 Minions movies?
Mhm.
Jesus. I didn't know that.
Well, one day I will buy a crypto minion.
One
and
day.
It'll be so great. What's your favorite
What's a
NFT?
purchase? I was gonna ask, what's a purchase? What's like the biggest regret you've made in terms of purchases? I bought a really shitty car once.
I
And
used to
that
have a
fucking
really
sucked.
expensive gym membership, but I didn't regret it.
Uh,
I know I know it's a waste of money, but fuck, that gym was so fucking nice. It was so worth it. It was worth every penny.
it's like one of those $500 a month places. Like got a fucking one of those. It's got a racquetball court and shit.
It was 100 a month, and it was like
Ah,
but
that's
it was
not that
so
bad.
fucking worth it. I loved it. It was like I went there and it was like just relaxation for me.
100 a month is not that bad though, man.
For
There's
me it
gyms
was
that
a
are
lot. Yeah. So,
like at the time. I see.
yeah.
I see. I got you. Well, hey, that's not that big of a financial regret. You know, it's not like you co-signed on a fucking car or you bought a house you couldn't afford or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say $100 a month is pretty expensive, but I don't know. What? I guess maybe it's not that much. I don't know. I thought it was a lot, but but okay. Um, right. What is next on the list? On my list of things to ask Econoboi. Um, is making NFT art a good business venture?
I don't think so because you're kind of well, okay, apologies. Making the art itself can be a good business. Like if you're an independent artist, to me that's like one of the main. That's like maybe some of the intrinsic value of NFTs, right? Is if you're making the art and you're selling the art and then you're allowing NFTs as the art or something like that.
Mhm.
To me, that seems like a reasonable venture. But um, if you're selling NFTs as an investment product, you're sort of stuck in this area where it's NFTs are a great investment. They're a great investment. That's why you should buy them from me who's selling them. But if it was a great investment product, you probably wouldn't be selling them, right? You'd probably be keeping them. So
Mm. Okay. Um, so there's this really fat house I like. Just a
okay,
second. Yeah.
you said it's a fat house.
It's really fat. Yeah.
Okay,
Um, let me share it to you.
all right. Waiting for this fat house.
Whoops. Look at how fat it is.
Okay. Oh man, that that
It's
does look
fat
like
as
a
fuck.
plump house.
I love it. It's amazing.
How much is this house?
It's $650,000.
Okay, that's within your price range.
I don't know about that. Do you want to so we were thinking of like doing a joint buying thing. Do you have good credit? And if you do, you can share a bunk with the mods in the house.
Well, I mean, I've definitely been looking for partners to go in on a real estate investment. My my one of my good friends, he's a poor law school kid currently, so he couldn't go in on it with me. But this looks like the exact kind of investment that I would be interested in.
Who doesn't want a fat house?
I mean, fucking dum dums probably.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fucking fat. Um, Helia bunkmates with Econo. True. All the mods get one floor. And then,
Do a
well,
streamer timeshare.
yeah, it's pretty much a streamer timeshare. And as they become streamers, maybe maybe all the mods will become streamers. Who knows? Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So
there you go. We can call it a cooperative and get a bunch of socialist streamers online. It'd be great.
we could call it the capitalist co-op or something because we'd all be capitalists, but our thing
Oh,
would be a
jeez.
co-op. You know,
That's true.
that would be interesting. And then we could shake it in people's faces. We could be like, "We're better socialists than you," and then
Oh, wow.
rub it in their
More from my
faces.
chat. Says make it a donation goal. Those who donate get their name written under the floorboards.
Oh, that's interesting. It's a good suggestion. Digestive. Um. Okay. Um. When are you going to get pregnant?
You know, my wife she's frankly taking a long time to impregnate me, and it's getting a little frustrating at this point.
Sorry if that
But
was too
y-
personal. I was just joking.
y- look, okay, all I've ever wanted to be was a mother. All right, and one of these days, my wife's gonna make my dream come true and make me the mother of her children. So we'll see.
Okay. Um. Do boy babies or girl babies cost more?
Oh man. Um I would oh well, define baby like between 0 and like 3.
Sure.
Mm. I would say boy babies cost more.
Why do you say that?
I've heard that girl babies potty train a lot earlier and easier. So if I had to guess, it would be boys that cost more because you have to pay for diapers for longer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, diapers are
Um,
like a big ass expense for babies.
one of my mods wants to ask, which has highest net present value, boy babies or girl babies? Is that
Well,
the
like I
same
said, it's
question?
kind of. I mean,
Okay.
I think. Well, I I think. Fuck, that's a more interesting question. I guess it would be. I guess it would be boy babies because boys grow up and on average end up earning more. So I guess the NPV would be higher for a boy than a girl. But society's changing, man. The wage gap is closing. So who knows what that'll be like when they actually grow up in
Mm.
18 or 20 years when they start earning.
But you have to factor in the cost of like woman stuff too.
Well, that's true. That's what I'm saying. Like, adult, like teenage and adult girls might be more expensive than teenage or adult boys. It depends greatly. I'm not sure if I would make a strong statement on either one, but the earnings differential on average, I think is still substantial enough that you'd bet on a boy baby being higher in PV. But again, those trends can be those trends are reversing. So
Mm.
most medical school graduates, most law school graduates, most veterinary graduates, they're all women. Women are dominating shit now. So
Mm.
we'll see how that changes in the next 20 years.
Okay. Do you think that banana prices are too high?
Fuck. Okay, I'm gonna reveal my elitism in the fact I don't eat bananas, and I don't know how expensive they are. So I'm gonna guess bananas are $2 for a bundle of them. That's my guess. I'm more of a watermelon, blueberry, strawberry, grapes man at this point in my life.
Okay. Um, what do you think about condom usage?
Condoms are fine, you know? I mean, use them if you want. Don't use them if you both don't want and you have the explicit consent of your partner to not use them. And don't use them at your own risk, I suppose, right? I mean, if you don't want a baby, you should probably use condoms.
Um, is is stealthing okay if babies have a positive risk adjusted return?
No, I wouldn't say that would make stealthing okay. No, you know,
Okay.
what are your thoughts on that question, Stardust?
I don't know the answer. I'm asking you. You're the expert. Okay.
You
Um,
don't know if stealthing is okay or not,
well,
Stardust?
stealthing is bad. So yeah. S-
Generally, it's bad. Name me a situation where stealthing isn't bad,
where
Stardust.
somebody's into the stealthing.
Okay, well, fuck. All
Okay.
right, you got me there. If you got it, if you have consent to stealth,
Yeah.
that seems a bit oxymoronic, but I can see where that could happen.
Um, do you think that polygamy is free market marriage?
I guess so. I mean, I think that the rationale for keeping polygamy illegal has I feel like it's almost always been like a almost a practical one, right? Because there's like what like how the fuck do taxes work if you can marry multiple people? Like do you cap it out on one spouse? How is that fair? Like I don't know. I mean, um ultimately practically speaking polygamy is not illegal because you can just, you know, religiously marry however many people you want. So
Um, how much money could people save if they just make girls stay home from school in shame while they are on their period instead of buying proper feminine products? That's a good question from Will.
I mean, I feel like you're saving the money on the front end, but then you're spending it on the back end when your daughter has horrible mental health issues that you end up having to pay for later on. So, you know,
Yeah,
probably just buy her the products she needs.
yeah. Okay, that's decent advice. Um, what was the most frustrating question that Mr. Girl asked you?
Um, I don't know if any of the questions he asked me were frustrating because he never really asked me any questions. Like I kept asking him to, you know, I suppose ponder what his curiosity, you know, in my view, I guess if you're curious about a subject, you'll have questions about it, right?
Mhm.
I think I used the example in our conversations. Like, you know, I don't know anything about astrophysics. But if I was in a room with like an astrophysicist, I mean, I would know exactly what questions I would ask, right? To me, the sort of natural first step to learning is having a curiosity and a question in your head. But that's not the case with Mr. Girl. So that's what made that conversation difficult, I
Mm.
would say.
Okay. What's your favorite cryptocurrency?
I guess it would have to be either Bitcoin or Ethereum, just one of the two big ones. You know, I mean, if I invest in crypto, it's pretty much Bitcoin normally.
Oh, okay. Um, is it cheating if you masturbate with the invisible hand?
Yes.
Um, who is your favorite dead economist and why is it Marx?
It's not Marx. I guess I'd say Keynes because he's been pretty influential on a lot of shit. So I would go with Keynes.
Okay. Um, is it better to spend Bitcoin on drugs, weapons, prostitutes, or all three? In what proportion?
Drugs, weapons, prostitutes, or all three. I would say in order, I would go with You know what? I'm just gonna say all three in equal proportion. It's hard to prioritize.
Okay. Shin-chan, I wanted to ask, if I clone myself and fuck it, is it masturbation or sex? Well, I'll tell you one thing, it's definitely gay.
It's that's definitely gay. That's true.
It might be incest as well.
I would say it's sex. You can't masturbating. You have to be alone. You can't be with someone else. You know,
Yeah.
your
Do you think
clone
it's
is not you.
incest?
It's a clone of you. Incest.
I think it's incest.
Fuck. Um,
It's gay and it's incest.
Hold on. Incest definition. Sexual relations between people classed as being too closely related to marry each other. I mean, by that definition, it's definitely incest. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be, right? Because you're the same genetics.
Hmm. What would you choose Marx as a... Why would you choose Marx? I was just joking, Mr. Self-Destruction. Oh, okay.
She wasn't joking.
I was
She
joking.
messaged me that she wasn't. She's
Marx was an
lying.
alcoholic. Okay. Wasn't he? I'm pretty sure he was.
Oh, I don't know.
He was definitely an alcoholic. And probably a little bit
Big
racist.
claim.
Though who
A
wasn't back
little
then?
bit.
Yeah.
Are you a little racist, Stardust?
I don't think so. I hope not.
You don't think so?
Mm.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. For now.
Do we have people who in the audience who have questions who want to call in and ask Econoboi questions?
Oh, God. Those are all your economic questions, Stardust? You got nothing else?
Probably have a few more pop up while we're talking.
Okay. Okay.
So you're like a social, you're like economically a SOCDEM, right? Or something like that?
Yeah,
Or are you
pretty
more left
much.
than that?
No, I'm just a SOCDEM. I mean, I think most American Democrats are also SOCDEMs, so that's kind of where I am.
Um, huh, okay. I guess I think I kind of align with that as well, though. I'm not opposed to seeing like, I don't know. I'm not opposed to seeing stuff more unregulated, I guess, in certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, there's areas where SOCDEMs can agree that regulation is inappropriate. Like, I think most people would say that zoning laws should probably be
Hmm.
pretty significantly taken away, or like the regulations that we have on like medical professionals can be pretty stupid, right? So like capping the number of residencies and nursing certificates we give
That's
out.
really fucking stupid. That one's got to be the stupidest one. The capping
Yeah,
the yeah.
probably. We
Um,
don't need more doctors. Let's just keep it at this,
yeah,
Fuck
I
it.
don't understand why is there a cap. Uh, I think even like majority of doctors like hate the AMA for that. Um,
Yeah, because they're getting
yeah,
more. They have more fucking work. Like that's why you have to work 80 hours a week when you're a resident because there's no
yeah,
fucking doctors.
yeah.
Like, it
Um,
sucks. Yeah.
so I heard a really interesting argument from somebody that was like anti like FDA,
Okay.
and they were arguing that with less regulation on things like the COVID vaccine, that more people would have been able to be safe. What do you think about that?
I mean, that was fundamentally what Operation. Well, I suppose Operation Warp Speed. I'm not sure if it was necessarily like a dismantling of regulation, or if it was rather the ability to concurrently deal with regulations. That's how I understand Operation Warp Speed, which was the Trump like
Mm,
plan to get the vaccine developed. Was that, hey, instead of having to do these different steps for vaccine development sequentially, one after the other, you can do them at the same time, right? So instead of taking 5 years, maybe it only takes 8 or 9 months or something like that. And um, so I mean, I think that's fine. The speed at which people were able, the speed at which we were able to develop the vaccine seemed really really fast. So to that extent, it seems like a success. But I'm not sure if we should necessarily compromise like evidentiary standards, which is I think a lot of what that's a lot of what the FDA's regulations require is like you have to have so many people tested, you have to have so many samples, you have to have so many sort of rigors of analysis when it comes to proving that this treatment is actually effective. To me, that's fine. I think that where regulation probably should be questioned a little bit is with regards to other countries. So, for instance, if I think there needs to be more joint joint medical treaties, right? So, for instance, I think that if Canada approves a treatment, I feel like we should just approve it automatically in America. Doesn't really make sense. Like, I assume we trust the Canadians to be developing, effective medicine. Same thing with like the UK or Spain or something like that. So, I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense,
What is
right?
that
The
called?
EU,
Joint
I should say.
medical what?
I just call it joint medical treaty, like basically
Oh,
international treaties that say, hey, we're going to equalize these standards for approving medications and like medical professional certifications. That way, hey, if you're a doctor in the UK and you want to come and work in Canada, you don't have to redo your residency. If you're a doctor in Canada and you want to work in America, you don't have to redo your residency. If a medicine gets approved and it's life saving in the EU, well, we'll just assume that it's a good drug and we'll allow people in America to take it. To me,
mm.
that seems
That would probably
more
take like an
efficient.
international kind of like board or something, right?
Yeah, you'd have to sign a treaty. You'd have to come up with some sort of mutually
Yeah.
agree to petition to do it. Now, I mean, it could be one dimensional, right? Like America could just say like, oh yeah, if you're a doctor in Canada, you can be a doctor in America. Like America could do that by itself. The problem is that you want to have some say in the standards of Canadian doctors, though. Like you probably wouldn't want to just completely,
Yeah.
you know, offload that to Canada. But I mean, to be fair, you could probably do that too, and it would work out just fine. Because again, Canada's probably training their doctors pretty well. So
Hmm. Yeah, the person I was talking to was like anti FDA basically because they said that even with what we did, they thought that it still took too long. Um, and
I
if
mean,
there,
fuck.
yeah, well, look, I'm just telling you their argument. And their argument was that basically if we didn't have all these regulations around the vaccine, like tons and tons of lives would have been saved way sooner or something like that. So,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess so. I think that the problem with that is that you're ultimately you'd have to give some examples, right? We've had unregulated markets for healthcare. What
Mhm.
we didn't see was a shitload of life-saving, cures and treatments being discovered. Sure, that happened to some extent, but really, what happened a lot of times was, yeah, treatments that just didn't fucking work, right?
Mhm.
That were being marketed to
Mhm.
people who were told that they worked, but they actually didn't. So, that's not a
What do
it's
you
not a good
think are
situation to put consumers in.
what do you think are good areas where do you think are some good unregulated areas are and some areas that you want more regulated, I guess?
I think
Or
in terms of building housing, like
uh
that's like we mentioned that where
mhm.
deregulation probably
Zoning,
makes some
yeah.
sense. Yeah, zoning rules. Now, I don't think building standards should be deregulated, right? Like if you live in say like a hurricane prone area, you should have to build your structures to be able to withstand certain winds, or if you live in an earthquake ridden area, structures to withstand certain, faults in the earth and stuff like that. Like that all makes perfect sense, right? But in terms of the ability to just build a building to regulation, that should be a pretty deregulated process, right? At least relative to what it is now in most cities.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that would be one area. Another area might be like we were talking about the medical stuff. Those are two areas that I talk about a lot in that regard. With regards to where there should be more regulation, more regulation. Goddamn. I would say that. there should probably be, at least in America, like I can imagine like higher standards in terms of quality of the food that we eat, right? So, um, we probably shouldn't use corn syrup as much as we do. Some people will say that's because of regulation, but to me, there should probably be regulation against that kind of use in the first place. Like using corn syrup, or like using corn substitutes as sweeteners is probably not good for us. Uh, Certain standards that we have with regards to treating poultry and beef and things like that should probably be raised to quite to at least a higher standard than it is currently. And that should be subsidized so it doesn't impact the consumer as much as it otherwise would. So I think that would be fine. There should be a lot more robust antitrust situations going on, right? So I would say there's cause to break up at least a few corporations that have probably taken advantage of their size. So like Amazon would probably be one of them in my view. And there's other industries that are super duper highly concentrated that would probably be due for a shakeup under my sort of antitrust regime, ideally. Um, yeah, so those would be a couple areas for deregulation, but also more regulation.
Mm. Yeah, I'm looking at what the most regulated industries in the United States are. Uh, Electric power generation is one. Petroleum
Sure.
and coal product manufacturing. These are things I can understand why, though. Motor vehicle manufacturing, um,
Yeah.
non-depository and depository credit intermediation, um, scheduled air transportation, that makes sense. Fishing. Why is fishing super regulated?
I think it has to do with potentially overfishing certain areas. So,
Oh.
you want to require people to like get fishing licenses and tag their fish because if they don't, you might just end up with lakes getting fucking completely cleared out by people,
Mm.
especially for commercial operations. So, you don't want your oceans to be like, you know, empty because of overfishing, I guess.
What are the most unregulated industries? Uh,
Unregulated. That's a good question.
what U.S. industries are under?
I mean,
Let's
everything's
see.
pretty, everything's regulated.
Babysitting.
Babysitting? I guess so. That's probably one of them.
Yeah.
Selling lemonade on the sidewalk as a little kid.
Um,
Guns. I joke, everyone. I know guns are regulated.
yeah, people are answering in this one thread that banking is unregulated, but I feel like it's very regulated.
That's definitely not true. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, banking is a banking is highly regulated. Yeah, your instinct is correct.
Testicle Johnson wanted to ask you if you can explain why petrocurrency is so fucked to chat.
Well, I mean, it's the same reason why the gold standard is bad, right? If you had a currency that was backed by oil, right? I mean, fundamentally, right, you're limiting the amount of currency in your economy based on a commodity, especially a commodity with like a really, really volatile price like oil, right? I mean, you can
Mhm.
imagine a scenario where the price of oil goes down, your currency is just completely fucked. But then the opposite happens, and it's great, but that's not a very stable situation for the consumer, for businesses, right? And so, I think that I think I'm not sure to be honest, but I think most people, if you were to show them like, um, yes, one year you made $100,000, the next year you made $0, the next year you made 100,000, the next year you made zero, or you showed them, hey, each year you made 50 grand. I feel like most people would naturally just say, I'd rather just make 50 grand a year than have this really volatile living situation. So, but that's that's my thought. I don't know if there's any studies that bore that out.
Mm. Okay. Well, chat, if you have any further questions, I guess we can keep this open for another 5 minutes, I guess. Did you have any questions,
There we go.
Econoboi?
What did you eat? You made me hang out with my stream, and I hate everyone that watches my stream, okay? And frankly, I had to sit there for an extra 10 minutes dealing
Sorry.
with those people because you decided you had to eat something. So what were you eating that was so important,
I was
Stardust?
really hungry. It was like this bean quinoa vegetable blend thing.
Oh my god, that doesn't even sound
It
that good,
sounded
Stardust.
I mean it tasted great. It tasted great, okay? So,
A bean fucking quinoa blend? What
yeah.
was what did it come out of
So
a toothpaste fucking tube?
no,
Jesus.
okay. Well, look, I'm sorry that you don't understand uh that I'm very hungry and that was what was going to fill me, okay? So,
Did you make it yourself?
no, I didn't. I just warmed up something. I had to make something
Oh
really
jeez.
quickly. Yeah, so I just
That's
warmed
fair.
the yeah. Um
What are you
so what is this
doing after we hang
barriers
up here, Stardust?
probably watch some of the January 6th stuff. Um
Oh shit.
yeah. Do you ever talk about like barriers to entry in markets and stuff?
Yeah, sure.
How often do you talk about that? Is that like a thing that comes up a lot in politics or not really?
I guess so. I mean, that's kind of what regulation is, right? It's barrier to entry. You know, if in theory, right, if an industry was totally unregulated, right,
Mhm.
anybody could enter the industry, start selling the product, and start collecting money for the product. Then that's like a low barrier to entry. But if you say, hey, you have to sell the product at this standard with these sourcing ethics, with these certifications, with these licenses, with these standards of your facility, each one of these regulations is a barrier to entry. It increases your costs of entering that business or entering that market. And so, that's a decently big discussion in like economic policy
Mm,
makers rooms, I guess.
interesting. I guess I'm still kind of feeling out what specific things people talk about in politics when it comes to like econ stuff. Um
I think a lot of it's like specific issues, right? So a lot of people talk about Medicare for all or the minimum wage
mhm.
or like how much we should tax the wealthy, how much we should tax lower income
What is
people.
your thought on healthcare, by the way?
I am in favor of a Medicare for all system. So basically, just allowing, allow at the very very least, allowing everyone to buy into Medicare if they wanted. And although I do favor a single payer system, which is where Medicare would be like, the basically the primary insurance option.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know if that. I just don't know if Americans would really. I don't know if that would. I don't know if anybody would really go for that. Basically, I think that most
Yeah.
people would prefer having like a private option and then also the Medicare option if they wanted. Which I mean, hey, if everyone's offered Medicare, then hey, fuck it. That's cool with me. That'd be 1,000 times better than what we do now. So
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know. I feel like having options like I don't know, I feel like having options for private insurance isn't a bad thing, but obviously I think that I think like a universal option should just be a given, right? Like that just seems like
yeah,
something we should have. Um
yeah, I think that we should probably get rid of Medicaid and get rid of any other sort of healthcare program and just put everyone on Medicaid should just qualify for Medicare, and you should pay for Medicare as much as you make. So like, if you're super duper poor, maybe you pay like $10 a month for your Medicare.
mhm,
Um, but if you make like 150 grand, maybe you pay like 300 a month for your Medicare or something like that, right? Um, like I personally, like, I would pay for like graduated Medicare over my company's plan, even though my company's plan is probably cheaper, just because I don't like the idea of my employer, dictating my health insurance, right? That's always
mhm,
given me
mhm,
a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, right? So
mhm. Okay, interesting.
yeah,
Um
how do you get healthcare, Stardust? You're a streamer.
Yeah, I Maryland has a pretty good system for getting healthcare, so
Oh, damn.
yeah.
Maryland. I thought you were in Virginia. Maybe I misheard or something.
Um, let's see. Yeah, we're doing call-ins for 5 more minutes, guys. So mm.
5 more minutes, guys. If you want to talk to me, you can, although I will not respect you or treat you well. I'm going to belittle you and I will probably insult you if you come on stream.
Is there a reason that somebody should be more for like single payer than like just public option?
So, my rationale for liking single payer over a multi-payer system is that I feel like you get more savings on administration with single payer systems than with multi-payer systems. I think one of the big inefficiencies of the American system is the ungodly amount that we spend on administration. And if everything was billed to one entity, then you end up with a lot less need for administrators and for people to deal with that. Because obviously, your hospitals just, okay, well, we're just going to send all of our bills to the government. That's what single payer is. So that's kind of my, that's my rationale for it. It's a marginal preference, right? I'm sure that at the end of the day, right, if a bunch of people moved onto a Medicare system, which would be a lot lower cost administration in the first place, you'd still save a ton on administration. But there'd have to be reforms in terms of Medicare as well, right? So, like for instance, you have to actually make everyone take Medicare, which currently you're not actually required to take Medicare, which seems pretty. That seems weird to me that you're not actually required to even take Medicare, so or Medicaid.
Hmm. Um, and then there's people who just aren't for a public option at all, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some people like the guy you talked to who didn't like the FDA. Like he'd probably also say that the government just shouldn't be in healthcare at all. Like
Yeah.
no health, like no healthcare programs at all. And there's a lot of there's a lot of problems with that, I would say. But some people think that, I don't know. I just think that would lead to a shitload of problems. I mean, again,
Yeah.
we've had worlds without these programs, and seems to just end up with a lot of people underinsured and not insured, and they have to get healthcare at some point, right? So you just end up paying it into your premiums anyway. So it's just more efficient and broad based if everyone pays into a system and everyone takes out of it in the form of some sort of government sort of universal program.
Hello?
Oh no,
Oh,
we added
Hey,
someone.
how's it going?
pretty good. Hey,
What's
Econo,
that? Otaku Dev, my
my
favorite Canadian conservative.
wait, okay. Hey, so you guys are talking about healthcare, right?
Yeah.
We are.
Okay, so I personally think that there should be no public option
Wait,
for
who?
healthcare. Okay? And
Who?
also, hold on.
Who?
Also, what do you mean who?
Who asked?
So hold on, I'm not done yet though. That's only half the argument. I also think there should be no private option for healthcare. There should just be no healthcare.
There should
Oh.
be no healthcare at all.
So you just pay
Yes.
out of pocket.
No. There's no hospitals, there's no doctors, there's nothing.
There's no doctors at all.
Okay, so we all
Yeah.
die.
It's abolished as a profession.
Okay.
Look, this is like, this is the same genius of like, if you want to stop crime, just stop calling the cops. And then there's no
Exactly.
crime to report.
Why
don't people-
I wonder if what if we just got rid of all insurances, all insurance companies, and we just made everybody pay out of pocket? Probably, like, health companies would be forced to lower their prices, right?
Maybe. I mean, the answer is probably prices would be lower than they are now. But I don't know if more people would be able to access healthcare, right? Because a lot of people are able to access healthcare because of the cost sharing of insurance, right?
Yeah.
Insurance is basically just like a market mechanism for socializing a cost, and like insurance was created by the market, right? And It's basically specifically so that you can have stability in consumption, right? So instead of like, oh, I broke my leg and I'm going to pay $12,000 for this, all the surgery and whatever I need. I'm going to pay, $300 a month, and then if I break my leg this year, it's not $12,000; it's some discounted rate. If I get a heart attack the next year, it's not $30,000; it's some discounted rate. It's just an ability to like smooth your consumption out. And so
I
some
mean,
libertarians have talked about that. So like, just making people pay the bills directly, but I don't know, I'm a little skeptical on what that would actually do.
well, it looks like like concierge medicine is kind of picking up as a trend. So I guess I would
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
read
no.
more on that, but
There are some areas where direct pay can make some sense, right? So
yeah,
you know, like uh like dental insurance just doesn't like I've dental insurance is like a scam. Like it
yeah,
pays almost nothing and the cash rates aren't even that different, right? Um you probably don't even need you're not getting dental care as regularly as you might medical care, so it's a little bit different. Same thing with like optometry insurance, it's not quite the same. Um
Well,
so
it seems that
I don't know.
they're doing this across the field in a bunch of different medical fields. So it's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can certainly there's a lot of offices that accept. Well, I mean, I think every medical professional probably accepts cash, but there's a lot of places that are deciding like, oh, we're only gonna accept cash, right? Like we do this specific thing. Like a lot of plastic surgery might be like that. So, oh
Okay.
shit, what's going on?
If you don't mind, let me run something by you, if that's okay. It's your show, Stardust. You
Yeah,
you let
go
me
ahead.
know.
Yeah.
So I've heard a few places now that if you just have flat out free healthcare, you suddenly get a massive overconsumption problem, and that can be solved by having even just like a very small copay. Does that sound about accurate?
Are you asking me or Stardust?
You, Econoboi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean that doesn't sound unreasonable to me. I mean, you have to gatekeep your healthcare some way, right? I mean, because if you gave everyone, if you gave everyone, it's the free rider problem, kind of, right? If you gave
Mhm.
everyone like, oh yeah, just come and get as many checkups as you want, as many tests, as many prods as you want, like all the time. There's a lot of people who would go and get a checkup every single week, get their blood drawn every single week, get a full body scan every single week. Like it wouldn't be very efficient. And so, you need to gatekeep that to some extent for efficiency purposes and for practical purposes. So whether that's a copay or like some your Medicare plan says like you can only get one checkup every 6 months or whatever it is, right? I mean I mean it's either the market doing that or the government. So either way, you end up having these sort of these solutions to over consumers of healthcare.
So now, see, I was told by many lefties online, Econoboy, that we are in a post-scarcity society. So how is that a problem?
Well, I don't know who
I don't
said that
know
we're in
who's
a
saying
post scarcity
that. Yeah,
society.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
real. I don't
Go
think that's
down
the
into
thing.
head down into the deepest, darkest corners of Twitter, and you can find anything.
God, fucking hate
I mean, I
Twitter.
guess so. Goddamn. Post scarcity society.
We do not live
Who would
in.
say that?
I have a second question though, and I think I might have lost it. Give me a second to try and remember it.
Okay. Your second has passed, Dev. It's over. Kick him out, Stardust.
Bossett and Will, I also wanted to welcome to the
Yeah.
call.
Will was first with questions, so I'll let him jump in.
Hey,
Oh
Econoboi.
no. Hello, Will.
Easy question, or easy two-part question, I guess. Since there's a heat wave going on in a lot of the U.S. and some of Europe, what do you think some short-term economic impacts are? Based on current heat wave / climate change, and then is there anything like the average streamer can do? Do you think that could help economically for them based on current heat waves and whatnot?
Yeah, so I guess in the short run, the economic impact of heat waves is probably a little bit less stable electrical grid depending on where you live, and that causes a lot of problems with like people dying and different surge pricing costs that people have to muster a lot of times depending on their electric plan. And then the heat waves directly also cause a lot of people to end up dying, right? Which isn't, it's not good when a bunch of people are like dying early from, just how hot it is outside. It's not very good for productivity. In terms of what streamers can do, I mean, I don't know. Donate to a good cause, organize
stream viewers, not streamers like.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You know what? Yeah, stream viewer, like average viewer.
Yeah, I mean, what you can do. I mean, in terms of like weathering the problem or trying to solve it.
Weathering the problem, because like for example, I don't live there anymore, but I lived in Washington last summer for a heat wave, and I mean a lot of the houses and apartments weren't really prepared, and a lot of people had to make short term economic impact for them. Some even had to stay in hotels or pay exorbitant prices for air conditioners.
Yeah,
that
I mean, what I did was what the wife and I are doing is we just basically don't use the AC, and we just looked it up on Amazon. We bought the cheapest window unit we could find, which was like $100 or something ridiculous, and we just installed it in our bedroom. And if we're ever feeling like too hot or whatever, especially at nighttime, like it's hard for me at least to sleep when it's like 90 degrees in the room. I just get super sweaty and uncomfortable, and so it cools down one room super effectively, and it's like a lot cheaper to just have one window unit versus installing like a whole central AC system or like a heat pump. That's something I would suggest if you've got like $100 or $150, and the ability to install it, right? So that's not a bad idea. Other than that, obviously, set your thermostats to like 82, and just get comfortable with that. I mean, that's what I did when I was living in apartments with like vertical windows. Couldn't use window units, right? So just set the AC to 82, and the contrast between the inside and the outside was so great. It's like 95 degrees outside, but then inside's 82. Feels like it's very cool. So that's the unfortunate answer for those of us that can't get the window unit.
Respect. I guess follow up to the first question. Wouldn't people with health problems dying end up saving or helping economies long term by lowering health costs? Like Medicaid or Medicare health costs and like Social Security and whatnot, by not having to pay those people because they're dying earlier.
Maybe. I mean, I think that's kind of tough to say because we're also assuming that it's only like retired elderly people who are dying, which, to be fair, those people are disproportionately affected by the heat waves that we're seeing. But I think that one of the reasons these heat waves are different is because they're so broad and they are affecting so many people. Like there was a former Dallas Cowboys running back named Marion Barber who he died of heat stroke in his apartment. He's an athlete, right? And I can't recall why he was. I don't recall why he wasn't using the AC in his. I think it was maybe his hotel or his apartment. But he's a young athletic guy dying of heat stroke in an apartment, right, or in a hotel room. It's like pretty crazy, right? So it's hard to say as well. But and then again, also like even if it was just elderly people dying, I mean, anyone who dies in early death, it's going to be traumatic and affect people, and like that might not be good for productivity either. So, I don't know. I hesitate to say that like old people dying is like good for the economy because it probably sets a really bad precedent. It's not morally right, and it's maybe not even true. I mean, how economically valuable really is savings on Medicare and Social Security? Like probably not that much.
Wait a minute, I want to contest that, Econoboi.
Oh shit!
Because I have a feeling that
Dev,
if all the 60 pluses
genocide
died,
against the olders,
if they all died, then the housing crisis would be solved. No more boomers sucking up the housing.
Good point.
I don't know. I don't know if it would be solved because I mean,
I
I think
reckon if you're a landlord and you own a bunch of houses, you can probably afford air conditioning.
I guess maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the why'd you say that, boss? That I don't get it.
Because those would be the the boomers that can keep themselves cool are going to be the ones that already own houses, right? So actually,
Well,
you're just
yeah,
further
that's true.
concentrating wealth by killing off
Well,
the
yeah.
people that are
Well, when I
in
say it
substandard housing.
disproportionately affects the elderly, it's the elderly without AC, right? So yeah, it's not affecting the Queen of England or anything. So if I had to guess,
I think it's a little presumptuous to say that landlords can afford AC. And we just watched the video where Xander Hall wasn't paying his landlord for like 8 months. So how can
Not
someone
AC for you.
not getting that
Oh,
rent
shit.
Wait,
rent
hold on.
get
I wasn't.
like
I wasn't here earlier in the stream. What's this all about? Xander Hall not paying his landlord?
Like I don't know. Do you pay your landlord, Dev?
Yes.
it was
Wow,
I'm responsible
liar.
there was either a period
no,
of
you
8
don't.
months where they were behind on rent or
Oh, Jesus.
actually 8 months late on paying. He wasn't very clear on that because he didn't actually handle any finances and
Right,
left
right.
that to his girlfriend.
Nice.
Yeah, I heard that there's some kind of drama happening there. I don't quite know what it is, though. It's
It
hard to keep up with
basically-
everyone, you know?
It looks like they're both they both, had a decent amount of wrongdoing that they did in the relationship. Lonnie definitely should not have been taking his money as well, or without his knowledge or whatever. But also, just the video that Xander Hall put out does not. It makes him look worse. Honestly, the video that he put out, like he's talking like Bossett put it really well. Just a few hours ago, saying like all he needs to say is my ex cheated on me, stole money from me, and got arrested. And that would have been enough for the video, but he wanted to include like, oh, she needed me emotionally, she wanted too much of my attention, which
Oh,
is like
no.
stuff. It's just like,
Jesus.
this is just normal relationship stuff. You don't need to include that. That's not making you look good. So
Did it
He
backwards too.
needed my
You
attention.
could have thrown all that stuff in right at the end if you wanted to.
yeah.
But instead, we watched like 20 minutes of relationship drama. And then he's like, oh, and I had these legitimate complaints. And there's
Yeah.
like 3 of them.
I don't usually watch Xander Hall, but I might need to go check this out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Fun.
I guess we can bring it into like Econoboi. Do you think it's a good personal finance strategy to say you're an immature young boy, and you find this like older woman who's like a surrogate mom? Is it a good idea to just give her a PayPal debit card to handle all the finances because you
Look, okay.
haven't had a real job and don't know how to spend money anyway?
Look, I think that most similar. I mean, it's similar to like athletes. Like if anyone's ever seen that 30 for 30 Going Broke documentary where it talks about how like young athletes just all fucking go bankrupt when they leave the sports that they become rich in. It's similar with a lot of these streamers where it's like, you become a streamer and you're dog shit with money, but you've got a lot of it, right? And Xander Hall is in a unique case where like I don't think he's a big enough streamer to have like a ton of money, but he's got enough money where obviously he can live. Yeah, I mean obviously given
I mean, he gets good
given your
viewership.
girlfriend.
He gets like 400 plus viewers on YouTube whenever I've seen him. It's pretty
No,
good.
I know
I
that's
feel
what I'm saying.
how
Like he's
Econoboi has
not.
just
I
sort
wouldn't.
of slyly snuck that in.
No,
right?
no. I'm saying like he's. I would just
streamers
say
are pro
he's.
athletes.
Well, I'm saying he's not. He's not like rich, but he's definitely like making enough to certainly live on pretty comfortably. Is like I was saying. Like he's. It's just that
I don't know,
obviously he.
for 400 plus viewers, I feel like you should be living like upper middle class or something. Maybe I'm
No, that's what I'm
overestimating.
saying. Like that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like I think Destiny is open. I think Destiny once said he made 500 grand a year, right? And he gets like 5,000 viewers a stream or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you
Yeah.
scale that down to like 400 viewers, I mean, I'm sure it's not totally proportional, but it's just to say that like Xander Hall's making like a decent living, right? Is all I'm saying, right? And
Well,
it's just that obviously giving your financial information to really just a non-spouse in general is like probably a pretty bad idea.
So I
mean-
range between like 300 and 1,000 depending on time of day and topic.
Mhm.
And that's enough for like both me and my editor to work on the channel full time. So I could see
Fair.
Xanderhall doing like all right, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, right? It's just like, I don't know. I don't think you should. I mean, like, I wouldn't even. Dude, I wouldn't give my mom my fucking credit card. Like not because my mom is like a crazy thief or anything. It's just like, nah, that's like uncomfortable for me. Like I'm like uncomfortable giving people my shit. So
To be clear, it wasn't a credit card. It was his PayPal debit card.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it
I
can't
get it.
even
Like
dispute the
I'm just
charges.
the equivalent.
Mm.
Like the debit card is even crazier because like, bro, I wouldn't like. Holy shit, dude, I wouldn't. Like I don't even know if I'd give
And
my wife my
didn't
debit card
she have
because
a
I don't use
scare?
a debit
Like,
card for anything.
earlier this year,
Mm.
Xanderhall had a scare where he like so much money out of his PayPal was gone, and him and Lonnie were posting about it on Twitter and contacting PayPal. And I don't know if that had anything to do with
Some
this,
scam.
but yeah. Um,
Lonnie's like,
I don't
oh
know.
shit.
Oh, wait a second. When was all this happening?
I don't remember
I
how
don't
long ago it
know.
happened,
Yeah.
but
Last year or
yeah.
something.
Last year? Okay.
Well, he doesn't know.
All the drama showed
like-
up in the last month.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, the drama, but they moved in together. Xanderhall moved out like around July 20th of 2020, and he has no idea when this started because he's never actually done a budget or really looked at his PayPal stuff. And it can only go back a few months of what he can know, because I guess he hasn't kept
Yeah.
historical emails or anything, so we can't even do a forensic, budget of
Fuck, dude.
Right.
what happened to him.
I don't
So-
get it.
I feel like I'm in the
chat is saying,
minority
we're all
opinion.
trying to find the guy that did this.
Yeah.
Like that the scene from that
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I'm in the
There
minority
was-
because we've got very merged finances, me and the wife. And we have for like ever since
But with your wife, though,
a
that's
couple
kind
of
of the
years
thing.
into. But ever since like a couple of years into dating, we've just decided it was just easier to have joint everything.
That makes sense.
I
That,
mean,
that
same
makes
here,
sense.
same here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean,
But-
dating. I don't know if I'd do that with someone I was dating. Like maybe if I had, like if it's like a common, like if we've been together for like years, right? I could see it, but even then, I think it'd be like, nah. If
You know
we
what-
want to have joint bank accounts, got to be married, bro.
You know what really floored me in
Yeah,
that
okay.
whole video was that it is that he knew her. They were dating for what, 2 years, or they were living together for 2 years at least, something like that. I don't know. And then he's saying like she's a year older than he thought she was. Like it's like this big grand reveal. Like she was hiding it. How do you live with somebody for like a year plus and not have seen their photo ID and seen their date of
Mhm.
birth?
Yeah, either you care
mean,
so little about what
wait,
their
hold
actual
on.
ages,
Stardust.
or
I have
you
a
know,
question. Like,
Yeah. No, I think
He-
it's a thing that he didn't care. I think it's a thing that
Wait,
he
wait.
didn't care.
did he never asked how old she was?
No, he said that she told him when they first started dating that she was 28, but he found out that she was actually a year older than she said she was recently because of
Wow.
Yeah.
Scandalous.
Why would
It's like
Yeah.
when it's like I saw it. I think it was was it a Tinder thing or something? I saw it was a post on Reddit about I think it was a Tinder situation where like she met her boyfriend on Tinder and she's like guys are terrible at estimating weights for women. So when he asked me on Tinder how much I weighed, I told him 130, but really I'm 155. And he never knew this until like years into our relationship. I stepped on a scale and he was like shocked. He couldn't believe it. And I think that's like a similar thing, I guess. She's like, I'll just give myself the year. Fuck it. He's not going to notice.
yeah, just
28
round up to
versus
6
29.
foot, no problem.
Yeah,
Maybe it was
round
one of
my
those things
round my
where, like-
5'8" up to 6 foot.
Maybe maybe it was one of those things where she said when she said what year how old she was, it was correct. But then like very soon after the year rolled over because it was her birthday.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's
Benefit
just
of
so
the
many
doubt.
reasonable explanations for all the things that he says.
Yeah, like
maybe she was going by,
years
like,
thing?
Yes. Yeah.
In Asia, they sometimes have like the you're kind of like a year younger. I can't remember. It's a year younger, a year older if
The
you're
year of the dragon.
in Asia, because
Yeah.
it changes the way it changes over weird. So I don't know. Maybe Maybe she's
No,
just.
no. What it is
Yeah,
at the moment of birth in China, you're one.
that makes sense.
Oh, okay. I
It's
see.
first year. Count that way, no problem.
Yeah. They count it by just the years, not how many years you've been alive. Yeah.
Now, I had an economics question for Econoboi.
What's up?
And we could go back and forth about Zan's drama, but I just want to slip this in. This is a serious economics question, so I know there's a bunch of people
Okay.
who are cheering me on in chat because in mod chat I was inventing bizarre economics questions. So we'll ask one of those in a minute. But you seem to be a big fan of the Nordic model. You've talked a bunch about stuff like sovereign wealth funds and things like that. The way you'd manage healthcare and all those sorts of things. But a lot of those countries have all this history, right? So Norway, for example, has a lot of like resource wealth that it's been able to manage. A lot of these countries have long histories of sort of wealth consolidation, or they've had sort of unique experiences in war and all those sorts of things. What do you reckon, in terms of implementing a Nordic style model in the US or other places? What do you reckon the chances are? Because they don't have that kind of history. In fact, they've got a really different history, which is all about things like individualism and, spending all that sovereign wealth on stuff like defense and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I
I
mean,
suppose the question
you know,
is, what's the major policy impediments to getting to a crazy sort of Nordic style model from where you currently are in the US?
oh, I guess the major impediments, like you said, a lot of it's just like almost attitudinal, right? It's just, I don't know about these types of schemes because I don't know about the government doing this type of stuff. I mean, the problem is that the U.S. government has, two great programs that it should market a little bit more effectively in terms of administering, which is, Social Security and Medicare, right? Those are very, very well administered programs, and they're very, very popular amongst the people who take out of them. And so I think that you just, you start with something that I would argue is a little bit small, right? Just say, hey, if you no longer have to be 65 to buy into Medicare. If you want to be on Medicare, you can be, right? That to me would be easy enough. It would give people a taste of what that, government insurance is like, and just go from there. And you have to start with, small steps here and there, just trying to demonstrate that sometimes government can do things pretty well. And you just build things out, right? I mean, that's ultimately the story of all of our welfare programs that we have in the whole world.
So you reckon that would be, I suppose, almost enough? Or do you reckon the US would stop along the way on that sort of journey and look a lot more, say, like the UK or, some of the, I suppose,
Yeah.
other European economies?
I mean, if in terms of welfare and services, we looked more like just the other European economies, I think America would have made a lot of good progress. So I mean, that'd be okay with me.
No worries. Now, a question
Oh.
I've been wanting to ask for a long time of somebody who knows something about economics, because I've had this argument in chat a few times. So, wealth inequality is a big deal, right? Rich people, or too rich people, and people that are just far too poor. And one of the things that we know is that if you get inflation up high enough, then people stop participating in the economy. So, what is the correct setting for inflation that knocks out the maximum number of poor people so that we can, I suppose, see greater income equality and, I suppose, drive things forward without worrying too much about the people that we're leaving behind?
A good question. I'd say 10% and more, and then we can finally get rid of all the poors.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm
Based.
going to take that down.
Okay, Econoboi. I actually want to follow up on the sovereign wealth fund thing for a minute.
What's up, Dev?
So last time I heard you talk about this, I decided to just
Goddamn.
to poke around and look it up. And
Okay.
aren't there some states that have some form of sovereign wealth funds already in the United States?
Aren't there some what?
Some of the states have some sovereign wealth funds.
Yeah, states and most cities and pretty much every public university.
Right. So if it's already kind of implemented, what's the issue with actually expanding it?
I mean, the political issue, you mean?
I guess, yeah, any issue really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of well, I suppose it's the matter of the distrust of the federal government, like I was saying, right? So I think that a lot of people would say, well, I trust my state government to do this or that, or I trust my city government to do this or that. Frankly, a lot of the times also people don't realize that there is a sovereign wealth fund in their city as well, right? So like when a city takes pension money and invests into the market, that's just as much a sovereign wealth fund as like what the Norwegians do with their sovereign wealth fund, right? They just take oil money instead of pension money. Well, they take actually both, but still, right? And so it's just not called a sovereign wealth fund; it's called a pension fund. But I mean, a pension fund for a city is functionally the same thing. Texas doesn't call its sovereign wealth fund a sovereign wealth fund. It calls it the what's it called? I think it's called like the strategic fund or something like that. I think Alaska the same thing. I think they call it like the Alaskan Reserve or something like that. But these are all basically just forms of subnational sovereign wealth funds. So part of it might just be branding. Like I don't know, maybe if we if we took Social Security money and just invested it into broad market indexes, right? You're functionally creating a sovereign wealth fund, a trust fund, which it already has a trust fund, but just allowing it to invest in more than securities would make it a broader sovereign wealth fund because you're buying actual equities with it and sort of doing more government ownership in that regard. If we just did that, I don't think people would have a large problem with it, and it would extend the life of Social Security and it would extend the sort of policy making ability of the government a little bit more. And so if it was managed appropriately, then I don't see what the big problem would be. I think it would be a fairly popular decision. So
can I ask about the management side, which is that if you do have these big sovereign wealth funds, then and you start to, I suppose, market them a little bit that way, then how quickly are they going to become sort of very political decisions and things that get used to talk about, well, these are the industries that we're going to support, or these are the ways we're going to support things in our sort of
it just
county
depends on who manages it within the
whatever.
government, right? So like in Norway, it's the central bank that manages it, which is a pretty robustly apolitical institution. I think that any type of federal sovereign wealth fund probably should be managed by, like, trading decisions essentially should be managed by the central bank in America as well. Because you're right, like I wouldn't want Donald Trump to be in charge of fucking the equity portfolio of the whole entire U.S. federal government. That would be a pretty scary, it'd be
This is a great idea. Just invest everything into gold-plated everything.
That's fair.
That's what you should do.
Platinum.
So
into NFTs
bigger
because they can't go down.
American NFTs bought by taxpayer dollars.
So the Texas funds, there's actually two sovereign wealth funds for Texas. There's the Permanent School Fund and Permanent Universities Fund, and they actually combine those like total in the top 20 of all sovereign wealth funds in the world. Just food for thought.
So is the problem then, Econoboi, just that it would be against the United States' Constitution? Like the federal government can't do that sort of thing? Is that the issue here?
No, I mean I don't see why. I don't see why it would be. I mean, if the government can buy open market treasuries, I don't see why it couldn't buy open market securities generally. It can buy mortgage-backed securities. It can buy treasuries. It can buy corporate debt. I don't think corporate stock should necessarily be treated any differently. And again, assuming it's managed apolitically, then I mean, you're the primary goal of
That's a pretty big
sovereign wealth
ask right
fund
now, man.
I don't really think it is. I mean, I think that the Federal Reserve has been proven to be pretty apolitical and robust to even. I mean, Trump was a pretty extreme partisan actor, even when it came to the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve was completely insulated from Trump, right? Even Trump, who doesn't give a shit about any type of democratic norm, even the Federal Reserve was implemented, or even Trump wasn't able to really politicize the Federal Reserve to any significant degree. He didn't even fire Janet Yellen.
Wouldn't you see expanding their power though as a bit of a political move in that sort of space? Like, how would you keep them independent? Because what it sounds like you're doing is taking a trusted, independent institution and then saying to that trusted independent institution, because you're trusted and independent, we're going to give you this thing which might be a bit controversial. To me, that sounds like it's going to erode faith in the institution more than it's going to necessarily, I suppose, achieve that completely non-partisan aim.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that you have to also you have to look at where what most institutional investors do with their shares, right? Most institutional investors are basically buying stock to diversify it and to try and create good investment products for other people to buy, like sort of transitively, right? And so what you see with most institutional investors, what they do with their voting power is kind of just go with the flow, right? Oftentimes institutional investors aren't like advocate investors, right? They're not trying to like oust management or board members or anything like that. That's oftentimes not the case. It can be, sure, but I don't think that, especially, you mentioned the history of the Nordic countries, leading them to where they are today. But I don't think the history of the American Federal Reserve would lead it to being a sort of hyper political entity if it was in charge of an equity portfolio.
Yeah, just because I'm not that familiar, I suppose, with the US style way of doing things, but in Australia we established an institution, the Future Fund, to manage our sort of the large sovereign wealth investments. And, we can do that in part because there's a lot of trust in institutions that I don't necessarily think you've got in the US.
No, I mean, that's definitely not true. I mean, I think obviously, the US gets a pretty bad rap when it comes to a lot of the crazy ass people that live in our country, to be fair.
Yeah.
But
sorry, I mean, to clarify, I suppose in a brand newly established institution. So if you had somebody like Biden announce the founding of a sovereign wealth investment fund, I can see that very quickly becoming a political issue more than anything else.
Well, I think that's where the difference would be, that it's not establishing like a new institution. It's more so establishing a new set of authorities for an established institution, right? So, giving establishing a sovereign wealth fund funded with, say, money from, surplus revenue and Social Security. Now it's invested in the market, but under the supervision of the Federal Reserve, right? Or at least those investment decisions would be, right? With obviously a devolved management team. I mean, that should be obvious. So it's obviously not like Jerome Powell picking stocks or anything, but I think that's the difference, and I think that's what would lead people to be relatively happy about it. I get what you're saying though. Like if Biden announced it, conservative, if Biden announced it was good to fucking eat your vegetables, conservatives would start throwing out their vegetables en masse. It feels like, but whatever. I mean, you can't allow the radicals to dictate every policy, right? So
yeah, and I'm certainly not saying that because you have radicals or because there's going to be opposition for these sorts of things that it can't be done. It's just about, I suppose I'm trying to get a sense of how you're thinking about it, because you've obviously talked a lot about doing that, but I'm trying to figure out exactly how you'd see that being implemented in an existing economy that is in some ways a little bit hostile to those sorts of ideas.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
I saw Flamenco in the chat. Flamenco, are you going to jump in?
Yeah,
Flamenco. Jump in.
I had a question that, if I wish Flamenco was here too, but I know someone already asked about like house buying earlier, but a little more specifics. Do you think it's a good idea right now? Hypothetically, say you're like a young 20 or 20 something from Florida. Would it be a good idea to move to Seattle? You don't know the area at all. Buy a house there, specifically with a fence to raise quail. Do you think that's good? And if not, and this is where I wish Flamenco would jump in. If that's a bad idea, would you think it'd be, and you had the opportunity to call that person's mom to stop them from making a bad investment? Would that?
Damn it.
Is that a good idea?
This sounds like a reference. What's the reference here?
It's
sounds like a perfectly innocent question to me.
That's Xander Hall's plan to do in a few months.
Dude. Okay, look. All right.
Wait, really?
Xander Hall is, look, you gotta keep in mind, all right? Xander Hall. Okay, to be fair, we're actually not that, we're about the same age, actually, Xander Hall and I, so I can't use the age excuse. The point is, look, not everybody grows up with a robust finance education from their parents or from obviously their education. And so people are going to live their own lives and be free. And if Xander Hall wants to start a quail farm and Seattle, I guess, then fucking
Is that a
that's
real
the American
thing
dream.
that he tried to do?
Yeah, that's a. There's
It's in the video.
Go to the stream. Check his stream out. There's
Look,
like
I
a
call
must have
that
missed
a
that
quail
part.
America.
fund.
All right.
Yeah, nobody's
If
talking
you have
about
a problem with that, you have a problem with America.
it. Yeah,
Maybe he'll
True
turn it into a
Senpai said
commie
Seattle
then.
specifically. He wants to buy a house in Seattle.
I mean,
Jesus.
fuck, man, that's expensive, dude.
Yeah.
Is Seattle
very
known
expensive.
for its quail production?
Bossett, don't ask that question, okay?
I've
I suppose not
I mean-
yet is the answer.
There we go. Have faith in our boy, Xander Hall.
I mean, I've never. I lived in Washington for like 3 years and I didn't see a single quail. So I don't know.
There's a gap in the market then.
There you go.
Maybe he'll be able to fill it. Actually, aren't like a lot of bread tubers living in that area, like the Seattle area?
Well, his surrogate
I don't
father
know.
Vosh lives in
Oh
Tacoma,
my god.
which is weird. He said
Almost.
Seattle because due to traffic, it's actually like, I mean, it could be like 2 to 3 hour drive. So if he needs something from Vosh, I mean, that's
Is
it's
Tacoma
pretty
close
bad.
to? I don't know American geography.
Tacoma wept, by the way.
I'm
Tacoma.
forgetting about that.
The difference between Tacoma and Seattle can be 15 minutes, and it could be like 3 hours, depending on traffic.
Oh, okay, all right. I
Yeah,
know
Because I-5 is always under construction.
I know Lilith is talking about getting out of California and possibly going to Seattle, and I'm just like, do
Who's Lilith?
not. My co-host.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. If
Lilith is a cool lady. I met
go
her
to
online.
Twitter.com/Lilith Lovett.
Okay, I'll check her
Where
out.
she she's primarily known for being a porn star,
Oh,
but she
okay.
also co-hosts my podcast.
That's very cool.
There you go.
But she's looking to get out of California because it's currently just sinking into the ocean slow mo for
Last
the past
time
5 years.
I was on Dev's stream, we said the same thing, but I was called a groomer and not him, and I'm
Oh,
still
really?
salty about it.
Wait,
Who called you a
why,
groomer?
how were you being a groomer?
Who are
What
you
happened?
grooming?
Yeah, who are you grooming?
We
I don't
were
even remember this.
we were talking about, it's been a little bit. We were talking about sex ed, and like the controversy at the time was like the sex ed stuff in Florida, and like people were saying you're a groomer if you want to teach sex ed to like elementary kids or whatever. And we were talking about how, you know, sex ed for elementary kids is scaled down because they're elementary kids, right? So you're just going to learn like basic anatomy and, you know, how to report, you know, inappropriate situations and stuff like that. And Dev and I agreed on that, but his audience was calling me a groomer in the chat, and I had to point out, like, guys, Dev is agreeing with me. We're agreeing, okay? But it was lost. It was lost on them.
I've cultivated an audience that has no problem with not only disagreeing with me, but denigrating me. I run like the opposite of a cult. They all just hate me.
Nice.
Well, goddamn. They could have shown it that day a little bit more, you know?
But yeah, so I guess fuck, maybe all this was happening when I was getting into my fight with Xander Hall, because at one point he
You
was
got into a
like
fight
gearing
with
up
him?
to he wanted to debate me, and he was like, "You got to
Oh.
debate me, bro." I was like, "Oh, all right." So like Chud Logic was trying to set it up, and then also at some point for some reason Sargon got dragged into it.
Oh boy.
So Sargon was like, "Yeah, I'll debate Xander Hall too. It doesn't need to be 2-on-1. We'll just have 2 debates." And Chud Logic was like, "Oh, sure, okay." And then Xander Hall just disappeared from everything. He stopped talking to me and to Sargon and to Chud and just vanished. And I wonder if this
That's
was the
about
same
what?
time as this stuff was happening.
Yeah, I wonder.
What month was it? Approximately.
I think it was around March.
I don't think they had issues until like I mean they've always had issues, but May-ish is when the new drama happened.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe not then. Oh, I remember my question, Econoboi.
Okay.
Okay. So you were talking about health insurance and just generally insurance earlier, right?
I was.
And the libertarian argument against insurance seems to be that it especially if it's like tax funded, that it causes an extra drag on businesses that have to pay into these funds, right? That's one of the libertarian arguments.
Um, I guess. I mean, yeah. If it's charged if it's charged on businesses, sure.
Yeah. Or like, if it's charging your taxes, then it's an extra drag on you. Like basically that insurance causes drag because you have to pay into it when you might not be using it.
Well, yeah, I guess so, sure.
Okay. So I was thinking about that. And I mean it seems to make sense, kind of. But I was also thinking, can't it also be the case that insurance also increases efficiency? Because if rather than say saving up, like setting aside 20% of your income or whatever, or your business's income for a rainy day, if you have insurance, you can devote that to actual whatever it is you're going to be doing, expanding the business or buying whatever you're going to buy, or whatever. You have more money to spend on other things because the insurance will basically bail you out. So isn't there like a tipping
Yeah.
point where it does become actually more efficient to have insurance than not?
Well, yeah, like I think I was talking about it with Stars earlier that it smooths out your consumption, and also because insurance is a cost sharing pool, it negotiates the cost collectively as well, right? So in theory, healthcare, like if we had like a truly single payer system, or we had like a robust system of government negotiation, um, costs all else equal, costs should go down quite a bit because you're leveraging your negotiating power with healthcare providers as well.
You
Right.
also see an effect on labour mobility, which is that if your healthcare is not tied to your employer, if your healthcare is tied to a government program of some sort, then you're more likely to be able to leave your employer. You're not going to worry about things like pre-existing
Exactly.
conditions and things like that aren't a big deal. So you end up with a direct positive effect, which can cancel out some of the effects of, say, administering the program.
Right. 'Cause that's actually an issue here in Canada where each province runs its own healthcare system, but there's usually there's a period of time in which you don't have access to it if you move. So some people are actually disincentivized from moving out of province, even if it would be good for them, because they have to wait
Yeah.
like 6 months to get on the healthcare program, and they can't do it because they have poor health or something.
Yeah, and you see the opposite in Australia, which is that
Damn.
if you look at
Thanks,
stats
Trudeau.
around mobility, then labour mobility is quite high in Australia because it's Medicare works everywhere. I can go to an emergency and it costs me nothing no matter where, and doctors and things like that are bulk billed, so it's effectively a
Don't rub
single
it in
payer
my
system
face,
in a lot of
Bossett.
cases.
God damn you.
Econoboi, you're talking to your chat because we can hear you. We can hear it.
No, I'm talking to Bossett.
Oh shit! Sorry.
We can
Well,
still
then.
take over your country if we wanted.
I suppose that's true.
True.
Would you want to? though?
Australia or Canada?
Dude, are you kidding me? Australia would be a dope ass place to vacation. I'd love it if Australia was a state.
Are you sure?
Who wouldn't want Australia to be part of their country? Like, what a sweet ass place.
Well, the internet
Yeah,
kind of
the Australians probably.
Oh yeah, the
Well, who
internet
cares what
does
they
kind of
think?
suck here, doesn't it?
Bunch of damn criminals in Australia anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty great, but it is like 40 odd degrees in summer, so you got to get used to that.
Yeah, that's true.
Listen, okay, that shit's nothing compared to where I live. All right, come on.
No, Bossett
Yeah,
actually did work in heat, so I mean, it's not just like living there.
Yeah, the I don't know. It depends on where you go. Where I am,
Hey,
is
Bossett,
yeah.
are you a fan of Australian television?
It depends on the Australian television. I'm a big fan
Alright.
of the fact that every children's show is made up of creepy puppets.
So I have a recommendation for you. It's the best show. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's Australian made, and
Mhm.
nobody's fucking heard of it because it's an FX series that was made by Australians. It's called Mr.
Yeah.
In Between.
Yeah, I've seen Mr. In Between. It's great.
Ah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Only like 1 in
It is-
100 people have seen it. It's awesome.
Nah, you've got to, and for all the chats out there, this is a show you got to go dig up because it's a perfect encapsulation of, I suppose, Australian criminality.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's really great. I've posted clips of it in Discord before.
It's a good show. It's a good niche show. Goodness.
Can't say I've heard of it.
Well,
so-
I mean, fucking Dev, you should go look it up. It's on Hulu, and it's a good show.
To be honest, I almost I probably know less about Australia than most things in life. I know that the How Ridiculous guys are from Australia. Isn't Kyo-san from Australia? That's
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is. He's an Aussie.
It's a big desert country with kangaroos. I don't know
Yep.
a single thing about Australia. Sorry, man.
You just rattled off like 5 or 6 things that you knew about Australia, and then followed up with
But that's
you
not
don't know a
very
single thing
much.
about Australia. You've heard of koalas, right?
Aren't those
And
Yeah.
Poisonous spiders and snakes. And you've basically
Oh,
summed up the country. Oh, and beaches. We have beaches.
Bitches?
Hey, Dev, who's the deputy prime
Everybody
minister
has
of Canada?
bitches.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah,
Jesus, no idea.
I don't know either. I was hoping you did.
Wait. Do we even I don't think we have deputy prime ministers, do we?
Hell yeah, you do.
must.
I mean, maybe we do, but
I'm looking at her now. Chrystia Freeland,
wait, what?
deputy prime minister, the Honorable Chrystia Freeland.
Oh, okay, no. I understand what. Yeah, this is
God.
someone who's new to the post.
All hail Justin Trudeau, my boy.
Wait, you actually like Trudeau?
Yeah, he's definitely better than the Conservatives.
I don't know.
Come on, dude. Pierre
Uh,
Poilievre.
Did
How
any
the
of you
fuck
guys
you
catch
pronounce
the
that
January 6th, by the
dumbass's
way?
last name?
Bits
Sorry.
of the
Say again, Stardust. I was
got
talking
excited.
bad about a Canadian.
No, I'm
The
sorry. I
January
got really
6th?
excited. Yeah, did any of you catch some of the hearing or anything of it? I haven't caught it yet, so.
Oh, I was watching Adam and Sitch go over a bit of it.
Oh, cool.
Because apparently,
I like those guys.
Is it
They're
apparent-
nice.
yeah, I've been friends with them since like 2017. They're both great guys.
Yeah.
Oh man, I recall hearing some crazy shit come out of those hearings. There's the Trump Trump's reaching for the steering wheel and stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of it is
Jeez.
true.
I mean, yeah, I wonder. I mean, do you think they'd lie about it?
Oh yeah,
You think so?
I do. I think they
It's a-
could lie about it.
You think Trump's a
It's
liar,
effectively-
Stardust?
Yes, that too.
Well, I think everybody's
It's
a liar.
effectively a trial, isn't it?
Oh, come on, Stardust. Don't be a
It's a
centrist.
trial.
Is it? Well, is it? Are people compelled to is it the same sort of penalties for perjury and all those sorts of things
I think so. Yeah.
as if it was at trial?
You can't lie to Congress, and you do have to show up when they ask you.
Guys, there's this video of
Yeah.
this monkey drinking a glass of wine, and I think I need to show it to you guys. It's very important.
Is the
Okay.
monkey at least 21 years of age?
I don't know. I don't know.
Ah,
I may be doubting
That might be
Oh, that's right. It's 21 years of age.
underage drinking might cause TOS problems.
It's 21 in America. What the hell, guys?
Yeah,
Look at him.
we do it. Wait, how do we even know that's a wine? That could just be water.
It could be apple juice.
He's enjoying life, though.
He is. Oh my god. He's so
Oh,
sophisticated.
Stardust. Do you want to see a guy get his pants blown off by an industrial vacuum?
Does he survive it? Is it gory?
He does survive it. It's just a silly
Is he
video.
naked
as long as-
afterwards?
As long as it's not gory, I'm okay with it.
It's not gory, I promise. You can ban me if it's gory.
Can
I guess
show
you
it
can
on
determine
stream?
where you're. It does show an ass.
Oh, that's okay.
So I
I
don't.
can handle that.
I don't know. Oh, okay. It's one of the fucking silliest videos I've seen. Play it with sound.
Susan's watching. You're gonna get banned.
Fuck off, God!
Whoa, what the fuck?
What the hell?
Just blows his fucking pants off.
Damn.
I just think that's really funny. That tickled me when I saw it.
Now, obviously, I quickly looked up Missed in Between while we were talking. So
Hold on.
I've
I'm
linked
on a
Star. I've linked my favorite scene, which I'm
Hold
pretty
on.
sure this is okay to show.
Stardust. This is my favorite video on the internet is you must have seen it. There's hold on.
Should I play this in the meantime?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's a minute and a half, so it's just pretty quick.
Yeah, she told
Oh,
the
it could be
cops,
copyrighted stuff though, right?
Now
Mr.
I'm
In-Between?
here for breaching the AVO.
It's only a minute.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you in here for?
Right.
Oh,
Shit.
We should stop, but it's fucking not doing it, you know? I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you probably. Yeah.
What are they saying? I can't understand them. Okay, let's
You
restart it.
probably turn on subtitles.
what the fuck are these people saying?
Okay.
See, it's English.
He's saying I love raping.
Okay, let's
So this
start
guy's
it over.
all nervous, saying, "What are you in for?"
Yeah, she told the cops, and so now I'm in here. for
Subtitles
breaching
on
the
these
AVO.
Aussies.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Breaching the what?
AVO, so that's a like a restraining order.
Damn
Oh,
it,
okay.
Bossett. Translate.
What are you in here for?
Right.
Rape. Okay, so you just said rape, right?
He did.
Not
Yes.
right. Okay.
Shit.
We should stop, but it's fucking not doing it, you know? I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you probably. Yeah. It's not for me to judge, eh?
You never raped anybody?
Hey, no.
How come?
How come? I just, don't know, really. Just not really into it, but like,
What do you think there's something wrong with it or something?
no. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I rape women and shit.
okay.
Just blokes.
What?
Just blokes.
Oh, you fuck. Fuck me. Oh,
I'm right anyway.
Adam.
Good to meet you.
Fucking hell.
That probably lost a lot if you didn't understand every word.
Couldn't
I didn't
resist.
understand it.
Had to do it.
Neither did I.
What did he say?
Only
you
blokes. So
serious?
this poor guy, right? So this poor guy, the taller guy with the
Yeah.
hair,
Yeah.
is obviously a bit panicked about the fact that he's in jail, and he's in jail for like an AVO, which is violating a restraining order, which is not that big a deal compared to rape. And so Ray, who's the guy who's bald, says, "Hey, in here for rape," and leads him on until he eventually says, "Well, it's not like he's raping blokes, is he? Sorry, raping women. It's only raping blokes." And now he has to share a cell with this guy. That's the joke. I've now
Oh,
completely ruined
I
it
get
for
it.
everyone,
I
and
get
I'm
it.
very
There we
sorry.
go.
No, it's good.
I found it
Whoa.
very funny.
I think
But,
it was funny.
maybe my jokes are not like your jokes.
No. I thought it was funny. I thought it was very funny. Hi, last username, and hi, Flamenco.
Hello.
Hello.
Username and Flamenco in the party.
Yes.
So, Stardust, the last video I'll link you is the one I just sent you. It's one of the few videos I think I've seen on the internet that I've probably seen it 20 times, and it makes me really laugh every time. And It's not because I'm making fun of the gentleman in question. It's just because it tickles me how passionate this man is about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and it's quite a good video. He's also a reformed convict, which we can all respect, of
Okay.
course.
Wait, where's this video?
I'm gonna screen share it in just a second.
Oh, okay.
So he's a reformed convict who goes to congregations and does what you're about to see.
Today, put on the full armor of God.
I've seen this.
Put on Jesus Christ and fight against the enemy. Because we love you, God. So we do it for Jesus Christ. Put on salvation as your helmet and take the sword of the Spirit, which is the sword of God. So put on the full armor of God, Jesus Christ. I love you, God. Hell of truth, Jesus Christ. Chestnut of righteousness, Jesus Christ. Shoes of peace. Stomping on the enemy. We love you, God. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, we love you, God. Shield and faith of God. Jesus Christ. Have your leg right here. Hey. Helmet of salvation. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, he's got a hat.
There goes the enemy.
Jesus branded merchandise.
There goes the enemy. So we hold up.
I don't think Jesus is trademarked.
Jesus Christ. Shield of faith. I love y'all.
That looks like a shirt that an anime girl would wear.
And
I not quite know what it means.
The reason he shouts Jesus
Yeah.
Christ
What happened to his
is
hat?
almost
It's gone now.
He took it
He
off.
took it off.
It literally transcended his body.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were talking about econ stuff, and I know last username was the one who brought up the FDA regulation
We
thingy.
got distracted.
Yeah. So I figured he could probably ask it better. Or
Oh,
he would probably propose it better. It's not a question. It's like it's a
What's the
proposal.
proposal?
You were saying that the FDA is too
Abolish the
regulated or
FDA?
something?
I would say that just because it seems like a lot of people say that. Doctors who say that. So I've heard the FDA is just extreme. This is way too much red tape and bureaucracy, involved in getting drugs approved, and as a result,
What would you replace it with?
I would replace it with. I would not have government regulation of like. I don't think you need an agency to tell people what drugs are allowed to take. People want to take some drug, they can take it. If they want some experts to evaluate what drugs they should take, then they can go find those experts, and people can provide those services. And if but I don't think the government has to do that. I think we should, that should be open to competition, right? If one regulator is too strict about drugs and people are dying, they can say, you know what, I'm going to go for another regulator who's a little more who's willing, who favors taking more risk in order to help people instead of,
What would the profit incentive be for the private entities to I guess do a good job?
Well, they'd have to get their money from the people just paying to get information from them. Just like lots of other businesses that provide information, right?
Yeah, but you kind of had a little bit of an issue with specifically the 2008 housing crisis, where ratings agencies would just sort of rubber stamp, oh yeah, no, these are good investments, there's nothing shit in here, and the incentive to do that is to not lose out on the competition, who is just going to rubber stamp it anyway.
But those agencies were strictly they were pretty heavily regulated themselves, weren't they? It's not like there's not like a free market for credit rating agencies in America. Or
that's more based on prestige. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't, the extent to which the agencies were because of many different problems were, sort of improperly marking products. I don't think it was a result of too much regulation. At least I don't think anyone's ever proven that.
Well, does regulation give when these agencies give a rating to some security or something? Does that change the legal status? Do the regulations use these ratings?
I don't know what you're asking.
So, one of these agencies gives a AAA rating. Does that change the regulatory regulations apply to this security? Or do the regulations say it has to have a AAA rating or AA or whatever?
No. Yeah, there's no regulation requiring a certain rating on a product.
So it's an entirely private system. There's no regulations don't affect who can give these ratings or what the rating.
No. I mean,
a lot of it's just based on whether or not it's like a sound investment. Like a lower rating thing is going to have like a little bit more of a risky return, but you might get like a better profit off of it. So that's like the
that's like what the rating is.
Yeah, but like pharmaceutical agencies might just go to like a regulator that they know is going to fast track their stuff. I think like the only really thing that I would I fundamentally have with like any sort of regulation when it comes to like current like drug and food evaluation is I think that people who are like having like terminal conditions should have the right to take like experimental procedures if they like knowingly and have informed consent on it. And I don't think that should ever really be like a barrier to entry.
So like right to try stuff.
Yeah, like the right to try stuff, I'd say, is like the only thing that I think probably should be a little bit more mainstream, I guess. Mm-hmm. It just again, it needs to be like informed, and this has to be like a relatively terminal disease or something. But as long as people are informed on the risks, people should be able to do what they want with their own bodies.
Okay, one of the other things that.
Do you have to be dying to do that? What if you just got a very serious disease that's fucking up your life? Or you're just willing to take the risk.
There might be like a little bit more of a perverse incentive if there's no like terminal disease, but like I don't know. I think it's I don't know. I haven't really thought this that part of the position out fully.
So I've got a question around the if you are getting rid of the FDA and saying, hey, it's going to be fully private, how do you deal with drugs that have long-term sort of side effects and things like that? How do you incentivize these drug companies to, or rating agencies or testing companies to test things over the long term enough so that you've got a sense of what's going to go on? The FDA has rules around, hey, if you're going to treat X, then you've got to test it over a longish period, a biggish cohort, those sorts of things. What keeps those numbers high?
How long does the FDA make you test something? Like how long-term side effects?
I'm not 100% sure, but things like the FDA will pull stuff off shelves, for example, and say, actually, we've discovered there's a long-term side effect. It happened with
later on, and they find the side effect.
But it happened with stuff like postmenopausal drugs and things like that that were found to be causing osteoporosis, so they got pulled.
Right.
What keeps a rating agency or company around but what keeps those companies around and interested long enough, the rating agencies, in order to do that kind of retrospective analysis?
What keeps them around long enough? I mean, they don't need to be. Oh, what do you mean by around long enough? You just need to.
Well, if you're selling your drugs,
discover that this long-term side effect exists, right?
Yeah, but who's doing that? Who's collating those facts? Who's checking those things? Where's that incentive?
Well, I mean, lots of people
for the pharmaceutical companies.
Anybody who wants to, right? People are always doing research on that stuff.
Yeah. So what's going to keep them doing that research? I suppose is my question.
Well, so I mean, the drug rating agencies have an incentive. If they're being paid by customers, by consumers, then they have an incentive to do this, right? Just like other drug rating agencies.
So me as a consumer would pay them like you'd pay for like a consumer reports or something like that. I would be paying.
If you're the agency that blows the whistle and discovers this side effect of this drug that everyone's taking, it's pretty good publicity for you, right? I'm like, oh, these guys are looking out for me.
I
Sure,
think
but
the
if
issue is
you're
that the
Okay.
incentive isn't at that point though. The incentive still isn't gone to do the same practice, right? Because it seems like he's referencing specifically long-term implications of drugs, right? And if you're a company who can sell a drug and like for 30 years you're making tons of money off of it and those side effects don't materialize until say people hit their 50s and 60s, well, I mean in theory, yeah, you could be caught, but at the same time, well, what's to stop you from presently, from other companies saying, well, I mean that seems like a decent enough deal, right? I mean, we're short-term focused anyway for the most
But
part
on that
when it comes
time
to
scale, the FDA
returns.
doesn't prevent side effects on that time scale either, right?
I don't know what you
This
mean
is
because
what I'm saying, describing is what
there's
the FDA
regulatory
does.
consequences for that is what I'm saying, right? That's kind of the argument.
There
Right?
are.
You can be there are though, right? You can be fined
Well,
to
after they
oblivion.
discover it. But after this side effect is discovered, this long-term side effect, there's consequences, whether it's regulatory or whether it's just market consequences, right? After they discover the side effect, the market for this drug is going to be fucked. So there's consequences either way. But as I understand, the question is, what would these rating agencies be like? Delay the drug, or keep, or even look for these side effects? Is that the question?
Yeah, it's more about what keeps the once you sort of meet that very first bar that says, "Hey, the drug does something," and or actually, I suppose some rating agency says, "We reckon this does something. We reckon this has a beneficial effect of X or Y." What then incentivizes them to dig further into things like side effects, to keep track of the drug over time, to manage those cohorts, those sorts of things.
Well, I mean,
If they're being paid by those pharmaceutical companies or even by
it's just
consumers.
discovering things like that is what would make a rating agency, trustworthy among their.
So you
consumers.
think that
like, if you don't think that's compelling, like, what better incentive does the FDA have to do this? The FDA is the same thing. It's just that there's a much more sort of convoluted connection between the consumers and the FDA. But in the end, the FDA is only doing this because they're afraid of the political pressure if they don't, right? If they don't look out for the consumer.
Oh, I mean, I suppose that's true of every government.
So it's just a matter of like whether you think
because they're
market
worried about
pressure or
their-
political pressure is going to do a better job of making a rating agency do the right thing.
I think the tricky thing with pharmaceuticals, and why I think they're a special case, like financial products, for example, is because you sort of have very confused incentives around who needs what drug when, what size of the market for the drug, and those sorts of things. So, there's probably more incentive to cut corners around a potential miracle cure for something, and to come up with rosy results so you can sell it. Then, if you're
You don't
just
think
selling
the
a fancy
FDA
widget.
has incentive for that?
I think they've got less of an incentive for that.
Keep in mind, the rating agencies are not making the drugs.
So the rating agencies, you're saying they're paid by consumers. So I, as a consumer, would pay a rating agency to tell me.
Yeah, I mean, they can monetize, I don't know, however they want, like however different rating services for other consumer products monetize in various ways. They'll sell a magazine to consumers, or they'll just, advertising or some whatever.
Yeah. And you don't think a magazine cover that says, new miracle drug that cures cancer available now, is a perverse incentive for those rating agencies?
But they're not the ones making the drug. Why would that be? No, why would
in
they
your
have incentive
scenario,
to do
just
that?
sell a magazine?
Well, I mean, if it's a miracle drug, people are going to buy the drug, not the magazine. I think what make people more interested in the magazine is telling them something they don't know, like this drug is actually not a miracle cure, or this drug is dangerous, or something that the pharmaceutical company is not going to tell them.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't necessarily see how that's, I suppose, sufficient. I think
I don't know if it's sufficient.
Amount of money to be made.
My only argument is that it's.
Yeah,
I don't see why it would be. It seems like it could only be better than the FDA, because the FDA is basically doing the same thing, but they're just less accountable, and we have less choice over.
I'm actually not sure about that. I'm actually not sure about that. Well, so let me see if I want to make sure I know what you're saying. You're saying something along the lines of there should be private agencies that will go around and rate drugs and then publish their results, rather than a government-funded one with the force of the state behind it. Right. Okay. I think you fall into a trap that's going to be roughly analogous to what, say, a lot of ambulance chasing YouTubers do, just to use my own experience, is you get people who, they legitimately discover a really big story. So they unearth some kind of wrongdoing and they go, oh my God. And then they make a big video and they publish this video and they get a shit ton of likes and hits and money, ad revenue. But then their channel is kind of relying on the next big unearth. And so they end up making videos that have nothing in them because they're looking for the next big scoop, and it ends up destroying them.
Or even worse, they just make shit up and publish it as like new stuff too.
Exactly. So I think you would end up with a situation where there'd be something like that going on in the institutions you're describing, where let's say you have all the pharmaceutical companies that are actually making pretty decent drugs, and now you have these for-profit regulatory institutions. They're like, well, we can't publish any problems with any of these drugs, so who's going to care about us? I think they will end up running out of money and going out of business.
What? So you're saying they would publish like false alarms just to be sensational and attract attention?
Yes, because that would be that is their financial incentive, is to get more attention on them.
Not even publishing like false stuff. They might have like a really bad like sample thing that's like kind of not actually the data that would show up in like other studies, but they still recorded it, and then they make like a very big stink about it. And even worse, maybe like some other pharmaceuticals that are developing rival drugs, kind of like, oh, hey, I guess we're going to have to go with you now from now on, or something like that.
I mean, they could do that now if they wanted. Someone could go.
Well, no, they only have the FDA.
No, but I mean, no one's like, you're allowed to go and say that a drug is dangerous, and try to earn revenue by like sensationalizing that message if you want.
What about
if that was such a profitable thing? You'd think we'd see, and I guess we probably do see some people doing that, like anti-vaxxers and stuff. But
the entire is doing that.
that's actually a really good example.
Well, but the anti-vaxxers are not really a big deal except for COVID, right? Which is different because that's just kind of a big
deal. Except for that time when they're a problem.
I mean, like
that's actually true. Like if you go back,
well, it doesn't. I mean, the FDA is not going to stop them anyway. So
If you go back 5 years, there's a lot of right-leaning people who are laughing at left-leaning people for being all naturalist and anti-vax, and now things have completely flipped. So
even more so, like a little while ago, when the COVID vaccines were coming out, you had like Kamala Harris was even saying that she wouldn't take it because it was fast-tracked by Trump.
I remember that. That was during one of the debates, right? Yeah.
It might have been during the debates, or it might have been during like one of her public appearances or something.
I think it was the VP debate against Pence.
Yeah.
Can I ask if we're living in this post sort of FDA world? I think just to summarize, I suppose what I think we're asking is how do you encourage moderation in those agencies? How do you encourage them to be not too extreme to the, hey, these work amazingly well to sell magazines, or these work really bad to get a scoop?
Well, if
how do
the
you
agency
push them to the middle?
Is too cautious, then people who trust them are not going to be able to take drugs that they want to take. So that's going to be an incentive to not trust that agency. And if they're not cautious enough, then the people who trust them are going to get sick or take drugs that are dangerous or something. So it's just a matter of, the thing is, you don't have to listen to just one agency. You can listen to all of them, right?
Yeah. I mean, fair enough.
Like all I'm saying is I just don't want to have, like, I want everyone to be allowed to rate drugs and say they're safe or they're not safe and do research on them, which of course you are allowed to do. I just don't want there to be one agency that's funded by the government that has the authority to outlaw the drug or to say absolutely everyone can take it or not.
Hold on.
So you would be cool if the FDA still exists and still continues its function, if just so long as it doesn't have the power to then say, but you can't take this.
It was probably funded,
but
it only gave advisories and didn't have like binding regulation. That'd be better. And be more better.
Do you really want? I just got asked. Do you really want Demon Mama's bathtub out here running wild?
people want to take whatever out of Demon Mama's bathtub. That's up to them.
Bathtub titty skittles, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's,
I feel like this is just, to me at least, I feel like I don't know if it's reasonable to trust that consumers would rightly or righteously be able to do this type of extensive market research. I just think that for most people, it's more convenient to fund a body of experts to do that for them. I mean, I think we'd all agree that it's not a perfect.
That's what these agencies
not a
are.
perfect
It's a
system.
body of experts.
Haas in the chat makes a
Well,
really good
no.
point about
Okay.
consumer regulated market would be cosmetics. It was overrun with asbestos in their powder. Did I freeze?
You're roboting.
Oh no. He's leaving us, boys.
Well, at least you know what's going
Big
on.
bar powder.
No.
Make that one story.
Never mind.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, she
You're
is
not back,
like
Sarah.
deep in fucking Shadow Realm right now.
I am
Yeah,
back.
damn.
Sorry. Never mind what I was saying. I'll just I'll keep quiet.
Are
This
you
is
sure
what
You're back
happens.
from the Shadow Realm.
This is what happens when I
Yeah.
sleep. Yeah. So
Discord full
No, but
server.
I think last Tuesday, I think we talked about this before, though, is that I
Yeah.
get what you're saying, right? Where you're
It might
still
be deja vu for our debate, but if
Well, no, but
consumers
remember,
aren't smart enough to do the research to choose an agency or to judge an agency,
No,
how are
it's
they going to
not
be smart
it's not
enough
a matter
to
of
vote
not.
for a government that can run that agency, right?
Well, it's not a matter of not smart enough. Like I would never say like,
Or whatever it
consumers
is.
are stupid or anything like that, right? I mean, I would just say that it's not the most convenient thing, and I'm not sure if it's the most efficient thing to expect people to do that extra layer of research. But when we're coming
But
to
whatever it is you're worried that they won't be able to do, they still have to do that for the political method, right? It doesn't.
well,
it doesn't-
they have to. I think you're a lot more layers removed from that type of technical process than you are in your world, right? So like if
Why
we're
would
thinking about
move make it better? It would only make it work better if you're just sort of assuming that these experts are, and the people in charge are just experts implicitly, and they don't need to be accountable.
well, yeah, I mean, you have to. Well, I mean, faith in institution is part of the strength of institutions. That's true, right? You have to have the faith that they can provide the service or do the thing that you're entrusting them
Perpetually
to do.
without being held accountable by the people, because
No, I mean, we live in a democracy.
But you're saying that the
right?
people, but the people can't be expected to do the research. So, which means they can't be expected to do the research to make sure that these institution is functioning properly, right?
Well, I think
Understand
in
from
the
the
world that
people.
I think in the world where you envision, right, where you have competitive rights enforcement agencies that are competing with the right to represent you, I suppose in matters in this regard of like, basically selling bunk medicine, right? You'd have to somehow figure out that, the medicine that you're taking is bunk, which, I mean, I don't know how you'd figure that out, I suppose, but let's just say that you I don't know. I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out how a consumer would figure that out because they're not doctors or anything like that. But
Not consumers,
but
and anyone can figure that out. Experts can figure that out.
well, sure,
Right.
right. Okay, so I get what you're saying, right? But then at the same time, right, you're relying on seemingly this competitive market mechanism for the enforcement of industry standards, right? And I think that rather, like to me at least,
What happens now after the FDA approves something? And then they find out later that there's negative side effects. How does that happen right now? Is the FDA doing all those experiments constantly, or are the companies doing ongoing experiments on behest of the FDA?
There's public and private partnerships with basically all most medical research. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was some combination of the two.
But the FDA is not making anybody do that, right? Does the FDA come and say, okay, are you still doing research for this drug that we approved before to make sure that it doesn't have long-term side effects?
Yeah. Some of them do
I
have
think
that kind of regime. Yes.
Yeah, I think there are drugs that have like recertification requirements, but especially with regard to coming back with modifications to a drug, and of course there are examples of as you know, right, there are examples of drugs that come out with more long-term side effects than originally thought, right? But again, the argument isn't that the FDA.
How are those side effects typically discovered?
Again, I think it's probably
People
a
report them
combination of public
generally,
and
right?
private partnerships. It could be a private medical lab. It could be a university funded medical research facility. Like I'm not, who knows, right?
So the
It
point
could
is, there's
it could be
people
a class
doing
action. It could be a class action lawsuit. I mean, it could be a market mechanism or
Okay.
a public mechanism.
Keep in mind, you could still sue a pharmaceutical company for these. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to sue drug companies
Right.
if you find these.
Yeah, the argument is just like, would we rather trust the market to enforce an industry standard or a government? And at least, we've had unregulated markets before for medicine, and it seems like in those markets we ended up with a lot of bunk products, right? And not really, as robust a system of offering medicine as we'd otherwise prefer.
For example.
Yeah, I mean, there's the stories about the snake oil salesman who would go through and sell people, like I said, bunk products that didn't really work, in these old forgotten towns and shit like that, right? I mean, that's not good, and that's
You can
an
still sell
unregulated
snake
medical
oil.
market.
Well, first of all, you can still sell snake oil, right?
Well, right, but you can't claim that
no,
it
you
has
can't.
legitimate
Well,
medical benefits.
Well, like, because snake oil only works when you like say it's going to do X, Y, and Z. Like our current laws like prohibit you from lying about what the drug actually does.
Well, one more, I guess, like current thing. FDA doesn't have to approve like workout supplements, like all workout supplements. So there are companies that advertise stuff as a workout supplement that's not
Well, yeah,
FDA
but
approved.
that's because it's more nutritional. Like the FDA doesn't have to approve.
Well,
Like you don't have to send your apple to the FDA before you sell it.
No,
right?
because some things end up getting pulled later, because like people end up getting, because there is a combination of stuff in there, and it either gets and you get pulled and banned because like people have heart issues.
Yeah, but we would agree with that. Like
or
the
other
FDA
things.
isn't like an all like if food, and it's not like every food, I suppose, has to be individually. If you want to sell a sandwich, you have to like engage in a fucking double blind study and send that.
Yeah, I just mean there's still a
the
snake
FDA.
oil salesman thing going on where there are things advertised as like that as substances that make you healthier by taking it, which can be unhealthy and have side effects.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that the issue is whether you market it as medicine or not.
Well,
Right.
if you make some snake oil and you say this will cure cancer and it doesn't, I'd say you're guilty of fraud and you can be, dealt with however the justice system deals with fraud, lawsuits, criminal charges or whatever. I don't see why you need an FDA to come along and try to figure out whether things are and pre-approve things as not fraudulent before they can even be sold.
Well, because it allows the
if this-
consumer the peace of mind to say that, okay, I know that what my doctor is giving me for my cancer, right, is an approved treatment for this disease, right? Like it's because when you're actively dealing with cancer, I'm just not really sure the most efficient use of that person's time is to try and determine, oh shit, is my doctor like what certification on this totally private market did my doctor get? Okay, let's just assume that we trust those certifications, and now we have to determine, okay, is my doctor bought off by some company that's making him sell this treatment because it's a kickback for him versus it's actually a good treatment? Like, I think that to some extent our system is always vulnerable to like bribes and like corruption, sure, but a collectively accountable, central system of minimum quality and standard when it comes to medicine. I mean, to me, it seems like it's worked out quite well compared to the alternative. I mean, again, we lived in, well, we didn't live in that world, but there have been worlds where these regulations.
It's been a
did
while
not
since we
exist.
live in a world where doctors weren't licensed and drugs weren't licensed.
Right, which is great.
I don't know.
All I'm saying is
really
that
have
in the world without those
direct comparison
regulations.
there.
Well, it's a direct comparison in the sense that it's a world without those regulations, right? And what we saw was quack doctors and snake oil salesmen, right? And that's not good, taking advantage of people.
Well, okay, so how long ago? How far back do we have to go before we had no medical licenses or drug approvals?
I think the FDA was FDR, or not FDR, Teddy Roosevelt, right? So like the early 1900s. I wouldn't be surprised if the what do you call it, the AMA was probably around that time. I'm not sure when it became the case that you had to go to medical school to get a medical degree versus just a apprenticeship. I couldn't tell you when that was.
And now making a comparison between now and like a century ago or over a century ago, controlling for the differences in technology, the differences in culture, differences in a million other things to say that, well, this is a better system than the system back then. I mean, that's not something
Well, hey, I mean,
pretty difficult to do. I'll
well,
admit
to
that
be fair
I
though,
haven't
but
done it.
if you're
I don't think you can do that either, right?
well, to be fair though, if your point is that absent, because we've had these regulations for 100 years, the market would be more amicable to these regulations if it was totally free. I mean, maybe that's a more reasonable argument, right? Because you're right. Like, I think that these regulations, to a large extent, have established a broad-based culture of minimum standard, at the very least, in the fields that we're talking about. And consumers would probably be a little bit more skeptical than they were back then. But then again, who knows? I mean, there's people today that want to take eviscermycin for COVID, despite the lack of evidence in that regard as well. So
There's like
I'm not
there's
really
like
so sure.
100 times more drugs. There's like 100 times more information we have access to. We're so much more skeptical. We've gone through like generations of these sort of like cultural revolutions in the way we think about medicine and the way and we think about our bodies and health and everything. Like it's just comparing
Hold
us
on,
to.
but do you think since the information age and the internet, do you think people have generally become more responsible with their consumption of information or less? Because I would argue it's been less.
With the internet, I mean, that's a pretty new
I would
thing.
say less as well. Yeah.
Like, I'm
And
just not
what
sure
do you
if
mean by
access to
responsible?
info. I'm just
But
not
what-
sure if access to info.
But
I'm
we're
not sure if,
comparing
like,
with a century ago, right?
I'm
with a
just not sure with. Well, no, but
compared to-
not with a century ago. With like, there have been periods of time where we didn't have the internet pretty recently, right? And so I'm just saying, like, your argument of like, okay, well, because we have more access to more information, therefore people will be a lot more responsible with regards to shopping around for drugs in an unregulated market. I don't know if that's bore out, because at least generally, right, it doesn't feel like people have become like bastions of culture and being informed as a result of this greater access to greater information. It feels like people just became a lot more extreme and polarized and compartmentalized into their own extremist groups, not really the opposite.
That's really tough to say because we're talking. We have to distinguish between information that's going to directly affect your life and information that's just a sort of like ideology that you sort of signal to people. A lot of the polarization.
We already have a whole bunch of examples online, though, of people pushing fake cancer cures and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we gave them the ability to then just jelly juice, MMR, those sorts of things, if they were
that
able
stuff
to
is legal. The
then
FDA can't stop that.
No, but what's illegal is to claim, like, if you're
saying that stuff would get
product-
worse if the FDA didn't exist.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would take that bet in a heartbeat. Because right now,
for them to claim that it works.
Right, exactly, right.
Oh no! First of all, there is no consequence now that I'm aware of. I'd find with there being a consequence.
You will be fined or potentially put in jail for falsely marketing a medical product?
I don't know if that's the case now or not, but regardless, that's not what I'm arguing against. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with false advertising being fraud. What I'm not okay with is just having a government agency that has to pre-approve things as not fraudulent. I say let people sell something, and then if it's found to be fraudulent, then you can, they can get you sued.
So do you think the FDA has no do you think there's no chilling effect on fraudulent actors that the FDA causes? Because maybe that's just the disagreement. Because my view would be that view would be that. Well, let me explain.
I wouldn't call it chilling effect. The effect is that you have to go spend this massive amount of time and money with the FDA to even get these products on the market. And I'm sure that does prevent fraudulent actors. But the question is that worth the also preventing legitimate drugs from being available earlier, right? And cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that question, which is a tough question, I would say that my answer would be yes. And the reason is because I feel like it would be easier to establish a system that prevents those fraudulent actors, but then works within itself in order to recognize where it is preventing good drugs from being approved and just go from there, right? Like, it's easier to patch a decent sort of fundamental system than to start from not and go from there, right? That's kind of my point of view.
Notch a decent fundamental system and then go from not.
Well, because if you're agreeing, which you just seem to state, that the system does prevent fraudulent actors, but it also prevents good drugs from being able to be consumed by people, then it seems to me that the problem isn't the fact that it's gatekeeping drugs necessarily. The problem is that it might be gatekeeping too many drugs. And so from that point of view, the issue is just, okay, under what contexts and circumstances are we gatekeeping people from good drugs? Why do those contexts and circumstances exist? And then just to patch those from there.
Right. So it would be good if the FDA was not overly cautious, as it seems to be. And perhaps they're even getting less cautious. They have a thing now where you have this right to try if you've got terminal illness.
Sure.
That's nice. But rather than just say, well, let's just make the FDA not overly cautious, I think you have to go deeper and say, why is the FDA overly cautious? Because otherwise, how do we know how do we change the FDA? Right.
So we're kind of a far away from the time periods, but there used to be like large negative reactions to vaccines, and that like the anti-vax movements in different countries, like including the U.S., did not occur because people just came up with some bullshit about autism. Like they were literally people, many people getting serious reactions.
Chat, like the fucking stream. Why are there 94 people in this chat and only 37 likes on my fucking stream? What's going on here? Do I mean nothing to you?
Created like things like that created an anti-vax movement because people in the even as in the early 80s were having it, and in Japan had side effects tied to vaccines in the 90s, and that's why Japan has a high anti-vax rate.
I am engaging with the stream. I do say plenty of things during my stream. When there's a panel, it means we share the space with everybody, okay?
Game that's not that long. Like there is a fast track availability, but you need to actually do due diligence and limit the side effects.
One of the things that became very apparent during
chat, I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking fight with you. I will fucking fight with you.
on the US necessarily, but the FDA was very slow compared to other regulatory agencies around the world. I know that in Australia, the TGA, which is our equivalent, did not fast track approval of the COVID vaccine, and we actually got to approval from the time that it was submitted to the time that it was done faster than the FDA did with its fast track program. That's true of a bunch of other countries. That was true of a lot of EU, I suppose, approvals. So there's definitely room to improve the system that you've got. I just don't necessarily see the answer being, hey, abolish the thing. I think you can probably do a lot of things which are more efficient to speed up those sorts of processes. And some of those things are lean more heavily on the private sector, because one of the reasons why a lot of places are faster is because they will accept a wider variety of evidence that a drug works. So a pharmaceutical company can fund a bunch of studies into their drugs, set standards for those sorts of things are set by the government around what a study needs to contain. But a private company can go off and do that and submit that as part of their submission, saying, hey, this is what we want for approval. And that means that a lot of things can happen simultaneously if you've got a company willing to invest in that drug. And those are the sorts of things that the FDA doesn't necessarily encourage or allow at the moment. So I think there is an opportunity to improve that process in a way that benefits a lot of these private research and development organizations, in a way that doesn't then abolish the FDA, which has some of these really good effects, like it can pull stuff from shelves and it's got some enforcement powers around, being able to chase out drugs that don't work or make claims that are just patently untrue.
I'm not against improving the FDA if you can do that. But it's just that the FDA, if if the FDA fails to approve a drug fast enough, or if they delay a drug to say longer than it should be delayed, whatever that means, they don't get in trouble for that. Not really, right? They get in much more trouble if they approve a drug too early and it turns out to be dangerous or have some side effect or something.
They're incentivized to be very conservative.
Right.
I can agree with that.
Want to jump in here and bid a farewell to the chat. I got to get off.
Oh, you're leaving?
Oh,
it's
I
fun.
am.
It was fun, Econoboi.
It was a fun
I'm going to
stream.
talk to you about sovereign wealth funds.
No, I'm sorry. We can talk about sovereign wealth funds one day's last your name. Just hit me up. But
I want to be there for that conversation.
Hey,
yeah, sure.
Econoboi. So
yeah,
that one NCAP wants me to moderate a debate between you and him. What's his name?
That one ANCAP?
Man, I don't know anybody in any internet
one.
space ever.
Okay.
Hold on, let me look at his name.
The one ANCAP.
Yeah, if you wanna organize a
Fabian.
Fabian wants you to moderate a debate between me and Fabian.
Yes. Because my politics are like
confused.
kinda like his and kinda like yours. So
okay, yeah,
middle point between you two.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, just start a group chat and we can post availabilities and go from there. I mean, I'm always down to talk to Fabian. So,
didn't you debate Fabian already?
I don't really know who he is. Is he a good guy or what's his deal?
Yeah, he's fine. I mean, I think I don't. Right. I don't know him that well, I guess. But
all right, sure. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
But no, he's fine. But no, it's always fun talking to you guys. Last username, if you want to talk sovereign wealth funds, I've never heard an ANCAP talk about sovereign wealth funds, but I'm sure ANCAPs are fairly skeptical.
Could we set that up? Could we set that up as a thing?
That's a good word.
Just hit us up,
Okay,
start us, so we can
sovereign
same
wealth
thing.
fund chat where everybody talks about it. One day.
That's fine.
Yeah, sure. But no, thanks for having me on, and everyone, thanks for listening to me talk about economics for a Stardust stream instead of it's regular chaos cast political stuff, I guess.
It's all good. Thank you for educating the chat. So
goodbye, everyone.
Thank
you. Bye. Have a good
Yeah,
one.
good to see you.
See ya.
Chat, go check out
See ya.
Econoboi. If you don't go and check out Econoboi and subscribe to him, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life, but you're fucking it up.
You can screw
And if
up
you want to
every
see
financial
Econoboi
decision
debate
you make
me,
from now on.
you can't see it on Econoboy's channel, but you can see it on mine.
True. You should check out last username as well.
You implying that he's scared to post it? That's a bold
I'm not
claim.
implying. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I would love to set that up because that sounds interesting. Just like a conversation about that. Are you anti-sovereign wealth funds? Last username?
Probably. I will maintain an open mind until I learn a little bit more about them, but it sounds pretty silly to me.
Okay, cool. Well, we can set up a panel on that. That would be so fun.
It's a bunch of communist gobbledygook.
Exactly.
That's why Texas, the most communist state in the U.S., has the largest sovereign wealth funds in the United States.
What's it for? What are the sovereign wealth funds for?
Education.
Oh, okay.
Oil money
That
goes to
explains
education.
why it's still the largest. It's not
Yeah,
spending very
education
fast.
generally gets all sorts of interesting stuff.
So, Flamingo, did you hear my question to Econoboi when you logged on the chat, or were you not paying attention to the?
I was just tuning in, but then I got a phone call, and then Stardust apparently invited me on, and people are like, "Oh, you should come on." It's like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So I have no idea what the question was. I apologize.
I'll truncate it, but or do you think it would be a good idea for Stardust to have a mom-centric stream where she gets certain moms, like Xander Hall's mom?
In terms of the internet circles, in general, it's a terrible idea. That is a terrible fucking idea.
hey,
This is
what
a great idea. You should do.
No.
you
This
know
is a
what are
terrible
your
idea.
challenges as a
There
mom?
is going
like,
to be
what
there are
would you
going to be
give?
like Coomers out the fucking wazoo. This is such a bad idea.
I mean, they can all have VTuber avatars. You know.
No, that's even worse. That's even worse.
What
Are you
can I
guys
say?
kidding me?
The moms love
Wait.
Stardust. What can I say?
Yeah. So have the moms there, and you can ask like, hey.
Stardust wants to get like a bunch of moms to come on and doesn't think that there's going to be like a weird mommy please stuff. Like,
No, I'm
oh
the
my
one.
gosh.
This isn't a Stardust thing. I think it would be a good idea. So like Stardust asks questions like, hey, you know, what are you doing? Like, hey, your son wants to move to Seattle, close to some guy who has questionable views on underage relationships. And he wants to buy a house with a fence and a yard to raise quails. Like, is that a good idea? And what should you do if you're, you know, young, you know, 22-year-old child?
As long as the rent/lease is like, you know, not, you know, is like maybe 1/3 of their total income per month. I mean, sure, but if they're not making that kind of money, that's a really dumb idea.
What if this 22-year-old child like never actually looks at like his PayPal account and just, you know, gives his debit cards out to random people? Like, so he wouldn't even know if his mortgage or, you know, rent is. He has no idea the rent or mortgage compared to his income, because he doesn't actually look at his PayPal income. He finds like an older woman to handle all that for him.
I mean, in fairness, I rarely look at my my bank balance a whole lot, but it's also because I really don't spend a whole lot. Like I probably spend maybe 5% of what I make right now. So,
well, what if you're addicted to vaping? So you have to spend a lot of money.
Vaping and cigarettes, that's like $50 a week, isn't it? Like, I have no fucking clue. All I know is that a friend of mine like has a smoking habit, and they live in New York, and any time that they come to visit me, they always buy like 3 cartons of cigarettes, because I think it's like they fucking tax it out the wazoo there.
Well, you know, like somebody with 400 viewers on his stream, like I guess cannot afford vape juice, and has to ask his mom for to buy him vape juice. And when she doesn't, you know, buy him vape juice, he complains to his ex-girlfriend.
Oh, well, that reps.
Hold on. I actually like the idea of Stardust doing a talk to YouTubers' moms show. Like, imagine not just Xanderhall. Like, imagine getting like Vosh's mom, or Sargon's mom.
Oh god, I want to see a mum debate.
Wait.
Where the mums figure
Ralph's
out
mom.
who has the best stream.
Ralph's
mom.
You
have. I mean, listen.
No. I'm not going anywhere near that. I'm not going anywhere near that.
I'm not memeing though. Like, you could have Xanderhall's mom, Destiny's mom, Ralph's mom, maybe some random streamers that have kids. You know.
Hey, Flamenco, do you think you can set this up for me?
No.
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Flamenco's
sorry.
mom.
Oh god, no. Fuck no. Oh no.
I'm sorry. I was just joking.
I still don't tell my mom what I do for a living. I tell her I just fucking sell drugs. It's honestly a lot more like, you know, respectable than I talk on the internet, and I don't know, fucking hell.
That works until you show up in her recommends.
My mom doesn't understand how to make money on the internet, so it's like a mystery to her.
She never clicks on those links that show up on like Facebook posts about I make $35 an hour on the internet.
Nope.
You know, I feel like one day my mom's gonna be like, I told you when you were younger you should do YouTube and make some money, and now look at you're doing stuff on the internet making money. And then she'll use that as an excuse to she'll be like, see, and I'm always right, and this is why you should listen to me all the time. And
my mom's like unironically always right, so I'm not gonna fight that one. I'm not gonna touch that one. My mom's generally right on like 95% of shit that she tells me. So,
man,
I think she doesn't understand Twitch though. So, but or
And
live streaming.
I guess Flamenco, do you think it'd be a good idea for Stardust to talk to Noel on a stream?
That would actually be kind of interesting. I don't know if he'd go for it, but
Well, he rarely does like talks, but he's talked to people before, like what's his name? The dude who killed himself at like on some like the Something Awful founder. Fuck. Right. He talked to
Lotax.
Lotax. So he talked to Lotax's girlfriend for a while on one of his streams.
Well, that was following his like really nasty custody dispute, which might have been part of the reason why he
I mean, he's
logged
done.
off.
I'm just giving an example. Like he does interviews and conversations with people.
Yeah,
not just mad about internet, streams.
I'd be open to talking to him. I'd have to figure out what I would talk to him about. But,
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it could be either a discussion. I think it could either be a discussion on either free free speech talk. I mean, he has a lot of thoughts on YouTube. I mean, he has a YouTube stream, and like it's important to him to of his own brand to stay on YouTube, which is really interesting considering his background.
And there's a really strong element of that whole deplatforming part, which is on brand for the both of you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. I get really upset
I would just say that Stardust is gonna get like 3 more streams made about her that go on for like 7 hours. You're gonna be Destiny in this light.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a recent drama about
What do you
how
mean?
people are mad that you two are friends?
Oh, about me and Flamenco being friends, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm used to it at this point. And people will like make out that I'm friends with people that I'm not even friends with. Like I don't know. Like Flamenco and I, sure we're friends, but like they're saying like, oh, you're buddying up to like Richard Spencer, you're buddying up to Nick Fuentes. I'm like,
You did do a wait, what was the tier list that you did? It was a burger tier list or something?
Tiki Torch tier list.
Ah, okay, yeah.
He didn't like that. He didn't like that too much. So I mean, I wouldn't.
Oh.
Is it because you've debated them or something? Is that the reason?
I've interviewed, I debated Fuentes on something, but it was a panel, so I really couldn't get in much. But
yeah,
I have yelled at him before on he came onto one of my panels, and I yelled at him on that. Spencer just interviewed him, so yeah.
All the hate is because there aren't yelling matches.
Yeah, maybe that's what the issue is.
You ask tough questions, but without being impolite, so people get really pissed off.
Yeah,
and Noel has like a really interesting view. Like he is very hesitant to throw out the pedophile label.
That's good.
Like
That's
probably more than the average, far more than the average like terminally online person. However,
yeah, definitely,
he will 100% say, that Keffels is one. He'll 100% say.
Wait, did he actually say Keffels was one?
Well, he's 100% convinced about the ranch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Girl, like he will 100%, like he does not like.
No, he definitely does not like Mr.
Because he's
Girl or
convinced
Vito.
Mr. Girl is a pedo.
Yeah.
And he is someone who says like people should not use the term, call someone a pedophile unless they're willing to shoot them and then sleep okay at night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
so
what he says. Like
a lot of them, I guess, but
I wouldn't mind talking to him. I feel like he might find me very annoying, though. Typically, people from that sphere tend to find me very grating and annoying. So.
No, I think you'd probably be able to get along to an extent, anyway. I mean, you can just I don't know. I don't know how you get. I think he has an email, so you can just probably email him to get in contact with him.
I learned very quickly which crowds find me annoying immediately and which ones don't.
Yeah.
Which are those?
Well, I would say, I mean, typically, like politics people are angry at me just because just of the way that I do things, and I get it. Like the interview style is not for everybody. If you want me to yell at people, but then they don't pay attention when I yell at people either. Like I said, I had I had Fuentes on a panel, and I yelled at him just as much as I yelled at everybody else. Uh, but yeah, they're usually mad about that, but it's not like I'm this horrible. Usually, it's younger male audiences that don't like me too much. So that's what
I
I think part of what was it? I think part of it is that you're not you seem very stand your groundish. Like you don't you generally don't capitulate to demands of you, and it seems like the more people make demands of you to do something, you kind of are more inclined to do the opposite, which is kind of based.
It can be base, but it can also be very, very problematic as well. So, but,
Well,
yeah.
I recall seeing recently that it was you and Keffels, and it went from 0 to 100 like instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Jesus.
that was fucking wild. It happened to Hunter too.
Yeah.
Hunter and Keffels?
Yeah, Hunter Avalon and Keffels.
Somebody is saying it's mostly just my voice. And that might be the case. My voice just might be annoying. I think, I don't know, with younger male crowds, like, it just seems like there's something about me that really sets them off. Politics people also get annoyed with me, but it's not the same type of annoyed. Like, it's just a completely different type of annoyed. So, yeah.
You just gotta learn to of who you should take criticism from and who you should ignore.
Yeah, I figure.
You should just lean into it. I mean, if look at my avatar, it is the most punchable face avatar. I specifically ordered that.
That's the brief.
Yes, I want to be the most annoying, not the least annoying.
That's a good point. Yeah, I do like being annoying. Right. What were we talking about? I forgot. Oh yeah, the Keffels conversation. I tried so hard to make that a calm conversation. Even when she was getting upset, I was like, I'm not trying to make you mad. And it just kept it just kept going. I was trying so hard to de-escalate. It just did not work out for me. So
Oh yeah, I found that when you're dealing with people like that, if you don't immediately agree with them in the way that they want you to agree with them, then they want to have a reason to be angry at you, so that they look like they're righteous when they finally hang up on you. I think that's why it went from 0 to 100 so fast.
I know she was trying to get a reaction out of me, and if I gave even like a fraction of what she gave to me, it would have turned out very badly for me. So
You kind of watch it happen,
you did good.
which is you kind of watch it happen,
She have a
which is
larger
that
audience?
you start by having a conversation, and she realizes that she should be yelling, dials it up to 100.
Yeah, I think so. I think that also it's I kind of know optically now like what would look good for me. So me like firing back immediately at her when she starts yelling at me like would just optically not be good. So yeah.
I mean, I know she has a big Twitter following. Her whole thing is ratioing people, but is she actually big anywhere else?
She can pull anywhere from like, well, she pulled like 700 viewers for the Hunter conversation, but then like once Hunter went away, it dropped down to like 300 and stuff. I get the feeling that they're kind of chasing the numbers that drama gets, and they're maybe causing it to happen, which is not a very sustainable model.
Yeah. They'll burn out the same way that like Tonkasaw and Worski did back in the day.
Yeah. Because once you get to that point, you start like making shit up, and once you start making shit up, people just stop fucking caring.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Keffels was so upset about the quartering, like portraying her as like a groomer, right? And then like it's completely inconceivable to her as to why I might be a little bit concerned as to why she's or as to her like labeling me as like a neo-Nazi or like a white supremacist or whatever. Like yeah, or a transphobe. I feel like I should have
First time.
Oh no, it's not the first time, but you know,
it's definitely not the first time for Stardust.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first time, but it's definitely somebody with the largest following. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think the largest following that it happened to me from was Vosh when he called me a fascist like 2 years ago.
Really?
I was like, oof.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Oh God.
that was a fun time. That was also my first exposure to who Vosh was.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, you come off as like a normie, like liberal-ish person with maybe some like more right-wing, semi-social views, but not like to a massive extent.
I am right in the center, man.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wish Bosch called me a fascist.
I mean, it would get you some views for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just fully lean into it. I really like that meme somebody made today of me being the savior. Did you guys see that?
Savior
It's so
of the white
good.
race.
I'm the savior of the white race now.
Oh, nice.
I'll share it to you guys. It's such a good
How are you
tweet.
going to save the white race? Oh, because
Honking at people, probably.
Yeah.
All the white racist enemies, she's just gonna flap her wings and honk at them really loud until they run away.
I think that'll work. As a member of the white race, I'd be proud to be represented that way.
Thanks. I'll try to do you proud. Okay, here it is, guys. This person made a meme of me. It's so good.
People really like the Solid Snake one. I haven't used that one in a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Flamenco, you're on the shoulder. Yeah, it's me, and then I'm surrounded by all the people. Lauren Southern, there's Tim Pool, Milo, Mr. Girl, Counterpoints. I don't know who's calling Counterpoints, white supremacist or whatever. But
Such a weird mix.
I don't think you're. I think he's like Joseph maybe in that one. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson's
You think
in
they
here,
were just
though.
You think they were just
Yeah.
looking for people that looked like the painting?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
He looks. It's a good one though. I think.
Yeah,
Because Milo's kind of irrelevant now, isn't he?
he is. Yeah.
I don't know. Milo's like all over the place. The fucking Lauren stuff was kind of interesting, and I'm kind of interested.
Lauren
what's gonna-
manifesto.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what Milo has to say about that because she like fucking did not paint a very pretty picture of him.
Do you think he's actually going to respond?
It depends, I guess.
I don't think so.
Because right now, isn't he like still like a congressional intern?
Is he?
Might be.
I know he's still on his
Yeah, he is.
redemption
Yeah, he is.
arc.
Yeah,
Is
where he's
let me
like, I'm
back
straight
into-
now.
Yeah, Christian conservative circles.
I know back in the day, like way back during the Gamergate days, I knew that Margaret's belly person that Lauren had mentioned in the manifesto.
Oh
And I
God!
recall- well, she was a nice person. from what I
No,
recall.
I'm not saying oh God because of that. I'm talking about I'm talking about her stalker.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy was legitimately like one of the most insanely weird people I think I've ever heard.
That's why she left. I think that's why she left the internet in the end.
Yeah, that part
that-
sucks, but like
Well, like I know, like it's very easy to identify her because I think she's the world's only belly dancing person that has an ostomy bag. So it's very easy to pick her out of a crowd. So I think she just left the internet and left everything behind. So fair enough. But I recall her saying stuff like way back in the day about Milo, and just no one will listen to me because no one knows who I am. I'm not an internet personality. It's like, well, that sucks.
which is weird because she was like explicitly put in charge of like, or she was like the person that was stated to be in charge of his college grant thing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so you would think that she would like know best, honestly.
Yeah, but that was like when Milo was at the height of his
Yeah,
fame. No one was gonna listen to her.
it's wild that the drunken peasants thing is the one that did it in.
The drunken peasants thing. I don't remember this part of the story.
Oh, that's like the reason why Milo sort of fell off the face of the earth for a while.
I thought that was the Joe Rogan thing.
No. He was on an episode of the Drunken Peasants, and this was like a couple of years afterwards. And he made some like really sus comments about like I guess being molested at a younger age or something, but like being cool with it or some shit, and like basically rubbed everybody the wrong way, and he started getting like kicked off like
I
a
thought
bunch
that
of
line-
things.
Yeah, I'd also thought that line came off of Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
But,
No, it
I
was-
definitely heard it.
I think it was Joe Rogan.
But,
I remember watching that.
I think he did it twice.
Maybe he did twice, yeah.
This wouldn't be the first time. This wouldn't be the first time I'm like second guessing whether or not it maybe I'm like crossing over from the Berenstain universe or anything. But
Pretty sure
I
remember
want to
this
say
was
I
drunk.
want to say it was I
Yeah.
want to say it was the Drunken Peasants.
Yeah, he said
But,
something like something about like sexual relationships with older men being like an important part of young gay,
Yeah.
boys like
Yeah,
coming of age. Or something
that
like that.
young men should have relationships with like very young men should have relationships with older men in order to discover whether or not they're gay. Something along that
Yeah.
those lines.
Wasn't quite. I don't think he said should, but it was sort of.
I think it was more like
The-
defending the idea of it because he had like a I guess positive in his mind personal experience of it.
Yeah.
He'd be saying it was like a part of
But,
the gay experience, a central part of the gay
Like
experience.
a
But I
rite
think
of
the biggest-
passage,
I don't wanna
I think he
miss
said
what,
specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think the biggest part was just him doubling down after that, because I definitely remember that there was at least a few bits of press and those sorts of things where
Hmm.
he basically just reaffirmed what he said. It wasn't a I misspoke or I meant this or it was
Yeah.
a little bit out of context. Though I can't imagine Milo ever saying something like that was out of context. But
He doubled down. I seem to remember him apologizing.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I
basically
think he's
taking-
recently done that because he's
No.
recently come and done the gone on to the conversion arc where he's saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, well,
I think right after he
convert."
said it, he did a whole press conference and basically walked it back.
Well, that was when he left Breitbart. I think the press conference was him departing from Breitbart.
Okay.
But
I
you
think it
guys-
also came roughly around the same time that his Twitter got banned, so that might be part of it too.
Well, when he
think-
left Breitbart, he was also getting into that marriage with whatever American that he married, and he adopted his son. So he had to end that relationship to go on the conversion arc. So I think
It's-
that was much earlier in the story.
Do you guys think
Someone
he's
needs to provide me a
actually-
flowchart.
he's actually not gay anymore?
I have no clue.
Probably
Are
not.
you acting like gay's a choice? Like he can just decide he's not gay anymore?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
he said he's not gay anymore.
You need
so-
to line up an interview and ask him exactly that question.
You know
Oh
what?
boy,
I might.
yeah.
I
It's
feel
hard
like-
to know what to take seriously with
I
him.
don't know.
Like,
People,
Sardis, you're gonna now be labeled as the person who endorses conversion therapy now. 'cause you
No, I'm
platformed
not
him.
endorsing it. Okay. No, but if I feel like if I interviewed Milo, I feel like I would get an even bigger shitstorm than I already received from the other side.
I don't know
It
what
was just
like
I
don't
would
know
not
why-
take that seriously. Like,
I don't know why Milo
you know,
became popular. Like he's never really said anything intelligent. He just says shit edgy. Like, people like him saying edgy
he
shit.
Arguably, was like one of the first people to get into the ground floor of the anti SJW stuff. Like,
But what did you
that's-
say that was? What did you
He-
say that
he
was
was the
actually
Gamergate
original?
I
I mean, he
think it
wasn't the Gamergate guy. He never said anything original. He just copied what other people said and was good at marketing
Well,
himself as like
I think it was
as
like.
a
I think it was the gay part. I think it was him being gay.
Yeah, it was the
that
gay part.
was like
He wasn't a
was
normal
allowing
straight
him
white
to.
male.
Yeah, exactly.
it was
And,
basically-
but he never came up with
about his
anything original.
attitude,
He
right?
doesn't have original ideas. He's just an edgy, non-straight white person.
Yeah, he's
You
don't
not
have to
really an
have
idea
what
guy.
other
He's a
people said.
performance guy, right? He's
Yeah.
performative.
Yeah.
You don't have to
That
have
was always
original
his thing.
ideas to get popular in a specific sub movement that's going on. You just have to be in the right place at the right time, and Milo was probably in the right place at the right time. He had connections already with Breitbart too, which probably helped too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also he was like edgy and he stood out like a sore thumb, basically, right? Within that movement. So
From what I recall, a lot of it was just the fact that he was the only mainstream journalist willing to talk about the Gamergate
He's not
side
a-
of Gamergate.
He's not a journalist.
Well, he was back then,
He's no.
2014.
What journalism background does he have?
Well, He was
I
the
mean,
editor in
insofar-
chief for a little while for Breitbart. That's a
Yeah,
But that was
journalism background.
after the Gamergate
Well-
shit started.
I mean, did
Sure.
anybody ever think of him as a journalist though? Like this guy would go around and do shows with like fireworks and everything, where he was an artist
It
basically.
was a personality. That was the
Yeah.
He was a writer.
Well, a writer
For
in like
Breitbart.
air quotes. Like he's been alleged to be a sort of a what's it called? Being ghostwritten by like what's his name? What's the guy's name
Alan-
that like
Alan
yeah,
Bukhari.
Alan Bukhari, yeah.
Yeah, the
But still,
he
though,
wrote for an Aussie, not an Aussie, UK newspaper for a while. Before anything sort of blew up, that was in late 2000s. Because they kept republishing his stuff in the Aussie Murdoch press.
yeah, I do recall that. Like, I do recall that one of the big things was just that, in terms of let's say the apolitical average gamer who was on Twitter and involved in Gamergate, and they wanted to talk about this sort of stuff, Milo was basically the only person willing to listen to them in the very like the first few months of everything going down. And I think he basically just used that to catapult himself. Like,
Yeah.
that was like the seed of it, and then everything else kind of bloomed outward from there.
That was before people started basically like, oh hey, by the way, you like me fighting with Gamergate, pay for my dental bills and shit stuff.
Oh god, who was that? What was that chick's name? Fuck. This is some
It was-
deep lore, dude. This is
It
like
wasn't
eight
the
years
it wasn't
ago.
the Money Badgers person, was it?
No, I don't think so. No.
That was a different person, I think.
Fuck. This is from back when it wasn't a constant culture war on Twitter, and this stuff was relatively unique. And now stuff like this happens every fucking week.
Yeah, seriously.
Back when asking for money online was novel.
Yeah.
Well,
Think about
asking
this.
for money
But,
online for
Start
like
working in the morning.
to like sell a narrative of like, oh, I'm doing you can
you're leaving?
you too can engage in activism by giving
See
me
your
money.
last username. Guys, go
See
check
you,
out
everyone.
last username.
Yeah.
Good
Go
talk.
to his channel. Go subscribe. If you're not going and subscribing, I will come there and kidnap your mother and she'll never come back to you. So
Damn.
yeah.
Until after
You'll
you
put
have
her on your
account.
All Mother show
Yeah.
that's
Oh
coming up.
gosh.
Your
Thank
mom
you.
will have to
Good night.
talk to Xander Hall's mom.
Well, I think I'm gonna
That'd be
call
pretty
the-
hilarious.
I'm gonna call the stream
fun.
here, guys. It was fun hanging. Yeah, I think yeah, this is a very successful night. So
Nice. That's what I like to hear.
yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for hanging.
Yeah, no problem.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Have a
And-
great night, guys.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Let's see.
Good night.
Good night. Chat,
Good night.
please follow all of the people who are here. Okay.
Very, very polite.
Okay. And let's see.